Chapter 78. For 5 days in a row, Hien didn't go to the practice field to practice. Actually, she didn't care about the injury on her leg, but the Liangzhou Guard's female doctor, Shun Mushiwe, came every day without fail to deliver medicine to her. She also repeatedly warned her not to do any strenuous activities. Hong Shan also jeered from the side. Just listen to Dr. Nu. If you keep tormenting her, when the day of the battle for the flag comes and you can't get first place, you can't enter the Vanguard Battalion. Don't cry at that time. Hien thought about it and gave up. She wasn't in a hurry for a day or two. However, these days, as long as she left the practice field, her room was basically full. There was an endless stream of people who came to see her. People often came to visit her. Today, Jiang Jiao sent several sour and astringent plums. Tomorrow, Huang Xiong brought a skewer of roasted quail. The most speechless was Wang Ba. He couldn't bring himself to come, so he had the new recruit in his room send half a gnawed dry bun. One look, and you could tell it was a spoil of war he had plundered from someone else. He really did treat the barracks as his own mountain. Liang Jiao came twice. Both times, he saw Hien surrounded by people with a beaming face. He glanced at the mountain of food on her table and sourly said, "Oh, your life is pretty good." Then he left again. Hien was also very helpless. Just like this, by the time the scab on Hien's elbow was almost completely healed and her leg could jump on the ground, 7 or 8 days had already passed. The day of the battle for the flag was getting closer and closer. On this day, before the sun set, Hong Shan and the others came back. Hien was astonished and asked, "It's not time to leave the practice field yet. Why did you all leave?" "Today is the 14th of July, the Hungry Ghost Festival." Xiaomai rushed to answer. "The head instructor told us to leave the practice field early. After eating, we went to the riverside to light water lanterns to worship our ancestors. The Liangzhou Guard is pretty good. They actually give people time to worship their ancestors and loved ones." Hong Shan sighed. Hien smiled, thinking that this was a tradition in the military camp. When she was in the Fuyua army, every year during the Hungry Ghost Festival, the local government would set up a Taoist temple for the soldiers who died in battle. Now that the Liang province guards were backed by mountains and rivers, it was very convenient for them to release water lanterns. Big Brother and I are going to light up water lanterns for our parents. When Xiaomai talked about her parents who had passed away, she didn't seem sad at all. She only seemed a little sad. Perhaps her parents had passed away too early, so her memory of them was very faint. She asked Hong Shan, "Brother Shan, are you going to pay your respects?" "Go. My mother left early. I'll go light one for my mother." Everyone looked at Hien at the same time. Is Ahiga going? Among them, Hien's identity was probably the most mysterious. She didn't like to talk about her family's matters with Mai and the others. Hong Shan only knew that Hien's family had fallen into dire straits, and she had come to join the army because she had nowhere else to go. However, seeing her confident appearance on the martial arts field before, he felt that Hien wasn't a child from an ordinary family. "Me? I'll go too." Hien lowered her eyes and lowered her voice. "I also have someone I want to worship." Xiaomai and the others sensed that the atmosphere wasn't right. They didn't dare to pursue the matter and immediately changed the topic to something more relaxed. After dinner, the sun had completely set and the moonlight seeped through the dark clouds. Almost all of the new recruits of the Liang province guards had come out. The water lanterns had to be folded by themselves. The paper was piled up in a few large baskets in the practice field. Hien also went to get one. She wasn't very good at handwork, so was Xiaomai, who saw it and folded it into the shape of a lotus lantern for her. She then dripped a white candle into the center of the lotus lantern and handed it to Hien. "It's done. Thank you," Hien praised. "You're really good with your hands." Xiaomai smiled embarrassedly. "In the past, during the Hungry Ghost Festival, Big Brother and I folded a lot of lanterns to sell. I'm used to folding them. If the paper was bigger, I'd be able to make a prettier and bigger one." Shurtu knocked his head and said disapprovingly, "This isn't the time for you to show off." Xiaomai stuck out her tongue and ran towards the Wulu River with the water lantern in her hand. "I'll go light the lantern first." "Ahiga, hurry up." After the beginning of autumn, The weather in Liang province became cooler at night. It had rained in the morning, but the cool air had yet to dissipate. The dense forest on the mountain produced cool frost and dew. The moon was bright, and the stars were sparse, illuminating the river. The riverside was already crowded with people who came to pay respects to their ancestors. The flickering candlelight illuminated the entire river like thousands of silver flowers, reflecting the dancing flames. The fiery red lotus carried the thoughts of the people who came to pay respects and floated into the distance. It became a bright spot of light at the place where the water met the sky and gradually disappeared. "It's fine here. Ahigo." Xiaomai turned around and was stunned. "Where's Ahigo?" Hong Shan and Shi Tu looked at each other. "I don't know. He was just here." Ian sat on Shi Tu in the innermost part of the riverside. It was not the most open place, so not many people would light the lantern here. Ian silently looked at the lotus lantern in her hand. The bitterness in her heart was indescribable. Suddenly, she remembered the moment before Wanru drowned her in the water. She said to her, "You're pregnant." At that moment, she was actually more happy than confused. However, this happiness didn't last long. She and her unborn child were drowned in the Su family's pond together. Ian always felt that she had never wronged anyone in her previous life. She had done everything she could to the He family, to He Rufei, and to Su Jiheng. However, the only thing she felt guilty about was the flesh and blood in her belly. She had given him life, but before she could bring him into the world, she had killed this possibility because of herself. Perhaps when she was a general, too many people had died at her hands. She had killed countless people, so the heavens punished her like this. However, it was right to punish herself. Why did she have to punish an innocent child? She didn't even know if the child in her belly was a little girl or a little boy before it died prematurely. Ian took out a match. The spark from the match splashed on the candle and lit it up in an instant. The water lantern slowly bloomed in her hand. The light from the flame was reflected in her eyes, forming a small flame. It seemed that tears were about to fall from her eyes, but they quickly blurred. "I'm sorry," she said in a low and sad voice. "You and I are not fated to be together in this life. If there is an afterlife, you must be reincarnated into a good family. You must live a happy and worry-free life. Don't ever meet me again. I will also—" She put the water lantern into the river. "I will avenge you." The murmuring river gently wrapped around the small water lantern and moved forward. Ian stared at it. It floated until it merged with countless light spots. She couldn't tell who was who. Then she looked away and rubbed her eyes. "Idage, I didn't think you would be here." An excited voice sounded behind her. "What a coincidence. You also came to release water lanterns." Ian turned around and saw a young man with rosy lips and white teeth. He was holding a lantern in his arms and happily walking towards her. It was Chung Li Su. His clothes were neat and new. When he walked to Ian's side, he carefully lifted the corner of his robe, afraid that the river water would splash it. He gave Ian a large handful of water lanterns. Ian asked, "Are you going to release water lanterns?" "Yes. Why are there so many?" Ian was speechless. "I originally didn't have so many to release. I don't know the ancestors of my Chung family. However, I think my uncle won't be coming today. I will release him in his place. This is my maternal aunts. This is my maternal uncles. This is my—" He counted them one by one. There wasn't the slightest bit of sadness on his face. He was so happy that people would mistakenly think that he was releasing lanterns instead of Zhongyuan water lanterns. "Wait a minute," Ian interrupted him. "Why are you releasing them in your uncle's place? Can't he come himself? There are so many people. He won't come." Chung Li Su sighed. He looked as if his heart was broken. He shook his head and said, "I'll do it. Who told him to be my uncle?" Ian found it funny. The pain from the past had been diluted quite a bit. Although Chung Li Su's brain seemed to be a little less than normal people's, he was still very serious about releasing water lanterns. He lit the water lanterns in his hands one by one and solemnly released them into the river. He was extremely nervous and prayed that they wouldn't be blown out by the wind or knocked over by the waves. Fortunately, everything went smoothly. The water lanterns gradually floated into the distance. After releasing the last lantern, Chung Li Su released a breath. He took out a piece of coarse cloth and placed it on the shirt too. Only then did he sit on it. The Liang province guard is quite cool at night, he muttered. It was so hot a few days ago. I've never experienced such a hot summer in my life. Ian laughed in spite of himself. Chung Li Su used to live in Shuajing. During the summer, the Chung family would have ice cubes to cool off the heat. He stayed in the Fu all day without the sun. Of course, it wasn't as bad as the Liang province guard. She said, "If that's the case, why did you come with your uncle to Liang province to suffer?" "I had no choice." Chung Li Su spread his hands. "If I didn't come with my uncle, I would have been engaged." Ian paused. "What?" "I'll tell you a secret. I ran away from the engagement." Chung Li Su curled his lips. "I'm still young. How could I be engaged? Besides, I don't like her, so I ran away." Ian, this child really was straightforward. However, Ian was even more surprised that Xiao Ju had agreed to bring Chung Li Su along. He wasn't afraid that the Chung family would be dissatisfied with him. After all, he had secretly abducted their young master and even helped the young master escape from the engagement. Even if they were relatives, he was afraid that there would be animosity in their hearts. "Your relationship with military Governor Xiao is quite good," Ian said, choosing his words carefully. "It's all right." Chung Li Su was extremely proud. "I was the one who took the initiative to pester him." Ian felt that it was inconceivable. "Your uncle's personality is so terrible. You actually took the initiative to get close to him? Amazing, amazing. Who said that Chung Li Su was a good-for-nothing prince? Not everyone could endure such humiliation. My uncle is very powerful. If it wasn't for him when I was young, I might not be where I am now. Perhaps it was because of the beautiful moonlight tonight." Chung Li Su was actually very excited when he talked about the past. Chung Li Su's mother, Madame Chung, was actually about the same age as Xiao Ju's mother. Therefore, when Xiao Ju was born, Madame Chung was already married. Although Chung Li Su and Xiao Ju were different in terms of seniority, the age difference wasn't that big. Although the Chung family and Xiao family didn't interact frequently, they were definitely not cold. However, when Chung Li Su was young, he actually didn't see Xiao Ju much. Most of the time, he spent more time with eldest Uncle Xiao Jing. Xiao Zhongwu had 2 sons. Eldest young master Xiao Jing, had a weak body when he was young, so it wasn't suitable for him to practice martial arts. After he recovered, he was already past the best age to practice martial arts. Madame Xiao also didn't want Xiao Jing to join the military, so Xiao Jing took the path of a civil official. After Xiao Ju was born, Xiao Zhongwu paid special attention to this son. Xiao Ju didn't disappoint Xiao Zhongwu's expectations. When he was young, he already showed his talent. Xiao Zhongwu brought Xiao Ju to the mountains, where he was personally taught by 4 masters. As for which mountain, and who these masters were, Chung Li Su didn't know. In any case, he would only see him once a year. Sometimes, he wouldn't even see him once. When Xiao Ju turned 14, he went down the mountain and returned to Shuajing. He entered the Xianchang school and studied martial arts with the nobles of Shuajing. That year, Chung Li Su was 9 years old. When he went out to play with his good friends during the Mid-Autumn Festival, he was kidnapped. At his age, it was reasonable to say that he was too old to be kidnapped. However, he was born with a delicate face, like a silver doll in a New Year's painting. The kidnappers took him out of the city. Chung Li Su cried for help, but no one answered. He hid in the carriage and shivered. When he woke up, he cried. With tears in his eyes, he ate something and went back to sleep. He didn't know how long he slept, but the sound of fighting came from outside the carriage. Chung Li Su's nose was bruised and his face was swollen. Just as he was crying for help, the carriage stopped. He hurriedly opened the curtain of the carriage and climbed out. He saw that the ground was covered with corpses. All of them had their throats slit with a sword. It wasn't just one kidnapper who kidnapped him. There were dozens of kidnappers. The kidnapped children were all tied up and stuffed into the carriage. At this moment, some of them fell out, while others were still in the carriage. A group of people cried incessantly. In the chaos, Chun-Li Su trembled as he climbed out. Then, he touched the corner of a snow-white robe. He looked up and saw a handsome young man with a silver crown and white robe standing in front of him. He held a long sword. The sword was like frost and snow, dripping with blood. The blood was bright and beautiful, but it was not as red as the young man's lips. His expression was calm as his gaze fell on Chun-Li Su. This was a very fierce picture, but Chun-Li Su felt inexplicably at ease. He trembled as he hugged the young man's leg. He imitated his mother's tone and flattered. May I ask your name? Where do you live? I am a young master of the right minister's residence. You saved me. Our residence will reward you handsomely. The young man's mouth twitched. He looked down at Chun-Li Su with a pair of clear eyes. He said coldly, I am your Jiujiu. Only then did I know that he was the Jiujiu that I had never seen before. Chun-Li Su rested his chin on his hand and looked at the moon. At that time, I thought this Jiujiu is really amazing. Xiao Ju had saved him, as well as the other children who had been abducted. Chun-Li Su felt honored to have such a Jiujiu. He wanted to stick to him. However, Xiao Ju did not like this nephew very much. After sending him back to the Chung family, he never came to see him again. Chun-Li Su sent him an invitation to be a guest at the residence, but Xiao Ju did not come even once. Moreover, Xiao Ju was very busy. When Chun-Li Su saw Xiao Ju, he rarely saw him. He thought of the scene Chun-Li Su described and wanted to laugh. Thinking about it, Xiao Ju really had no choice but to have such a nephew. Then how did the two of you become close? Ian asked. If it was just a life-saving grace, then, as Chun-Li Su said, it did not change their relationship much. Then something must have happened later for the uncle and nephew to come to the Liang province guard together. Actually, the Chung family, including my mother and the relatives and friends who know the Xiao family, do not like Jiujiu. Chun-Li Su said they like eldest Jiujiu more. The two young masters of the Xiao family were both born to the Wei. The eldest son of the Xiao family, Xiao Jing, was also born with good looks. He was like a jade, modest and bright. In terms of temperament, it was definitely more comfortable to get along with Xiao Jing. However, it was not to the extent that they did not like Xiao Ju. Why? Ian asked. Didn't military governor Xiao save your life? Even if he was your savior, your mother would not dislike him. That is true, but Jiujiu does not see our relatives often enough. We don't know him well. Before Xiao Ju was 14, he was rarely in Shuajing. After that, he entered the Xianchang mansion. Not to mention relatives and friends. Even Madame Xiao was not close to this son. Chun-Li Su knew that there were a few times when Madame Xiao was talking to her mother. She was worried about how to get along with her son. Since she did not know him well, she naturally had a lot of prejudice. Xiao Ju was originally lazy and did not like to interact with others. Compared to his warm and bright brother, the contrast was even more obvious. However, as Yin said, it was not that she did not like him. The real dislike was after Xiao Zhongwu died in the Battle of Mingshui. Xiao Zhongwu's death came suddenly and was a huge blow to the Xiao family. Madame Xiao had never experienced any hardships and treated her husband as her everything. After Xiao Zhongwu's death, Madame Xiao took advantage of the fact that no one was paying attention and hanged herself. She followed her husband and left with only 2 sons. The 2 young masters of the Xiao family, Xiao Ju and Xiao Jing, were heartbroken. Xiao Ju did not shed a single tear. After the general and his wife were buried, the first thing Xiao Ju did was to go to the throne room to make a statement. He wanted to take control of the Nanfu army. Before the 7th day of Madame Zhao's death, he led the Nanfu army to quell the chaos of the southern barbarians. That day, Xiao Zhongwu died in the battle of the southern barbarians. Some people said that he was avenging his father, while others said that he was eager for quick success. Whether it was his father's death or his mother's death, Xiao Ju did not show excessive sadness. Thus, the symbol of coldness and ruthlessness and a heart as hard as iron was imprinted on him. Without the noble second young master Xiao in the capital, others could only find out about Xiao Ju's recent situation from the few words that came back from the battlefield. It was rumored that he was a killer at a young age. Countless people had died under his sword. He was also strict and did not care about human feelings. "Have you heard of Zhao Nuo?" Chung Li Su asked. Ian faintly felt that the name was familiar, but he did not know where he had heard it before. He shook his head and said, "I don't know." Zhao Nuo is the eldest son of the current Minister of Revenue. He was once the Jidushi of Jingzhou. When Chung Li Su said this, her expression dimmed. In fact, the misunderstanding between the Chung family and the Xiao family towards uncle was caused by this person. Chapter 79. That year, Xiao Ju led the Nanfu army to Jingzhou. Although people knew that second young Master Xiao was talented in both the pen and the sword, he was still young and could not take on such an important task. Zhao Nuo was the military governor of Jingzhou. He was lustful, greedy, and ignorant. When Xiao Ju first arrived in Jingzhou, he did not take Xiao Ju seriously. He often joked around and was very rude. In the Battle of Jingzhou, Xiao Ju led the army to the battlefield. Zhao Nuo was afraid of death and gave wrong orders, causing many innocent soldiers to die. Xiao Ju saw that he was so arrogant and ordered people to tie him up and take him away. Zhao Nuo's father was the Minister of War, and he had been in Jingzhou for many years. Naturally, there were many people who came to plead for him. There were many high-ranking officials and nobles who came to persuade him. However, Xiao Ju was young and had no relatives. He is the military governor of Jingzhou, and his father is the Minister of Revenue. Many people in the court have good relations with the Zhao family. If you offend him, you will not be able to do anything in the future. Xiao Ju was not moved. He only smiled contemptuously and said, "Just the Minister of War is so arrogant. Even if he becomes the Prime Minister, I will still execute him." 3 days later, Xiao Ju led the army to surround Zhao Nuo's residence. He pushed Zhao Nuo to the tombstone of the dead soldiers and beheaded him. The Zhao family and the Xiao family were actually related to the Chung family. Chung Li Su recalled that Zhao Nuo, logically speaking, should be related to us. My mother personally wrote a letter to ask Uncle to be lenient. But Uncle did not listen. He smiled. He looked a little helpless and a little proud. Military Governor Zhao's actions. Isn't he afraid that someone will try to sow discord in front of His Majesty? He thought, His Majesty will also be dissatisfied. As expected of my brother, he asked the same question as me. Chung Li Su said happily, "I also think that Uncle's actions are too rash." After a long time had passed, that young man had put away his flirtatious ways and became introverted and steady. He became the high and mighty commander-in-chief of the Right Army. Chung Li asked, "Uncle, aren't you afraid that His Majesty will be estranged from you because of this?" The young man was reading a book. Hearing this, he smiled and said he wouldn't dare. The emperor didn't dare, but it wasn't that the courtiers weren't afraid. In reality, this was indeed the case. Even though the powerful officials in the imperial court spoke ill of him, and the Minister of Revenue wrote one memorial after another to the throne room asking for punishment, in the end, the matter was left unsettled. It was because Xiao Ju had led the Southern Mansion army and defeated the southern barbarians like a hot knife through butter. Emperor Xianwen was not blind. He knew how to choose between a dead provincial governor and a one-in-a-million talent. However, Emperor Wenxian did not dare to punish Xiao Ju, but that did not mean that there would not be any rumors. The Minister of Revenue, Zhao Tong, and Xiao Ju became enemies. Those who were on good terms with Zhao Tong naturally did not want to see Xiao Ju doing well. Those who were on good terms with the Xiao family also distanced themselves from Xiao Ju. Firstly, his personality was cold and strict. He could even order his own relatives to be beheaded without mercy. Secondly, he was arrogant and did not even care about the emperor. It was inevitable that he would offend others in the future. One day, he might even implicate his friends and family. The Chung family and the Xiao family were close relatives, so they didn't break off contact. However, compared to Xiao Ju, they preferred to interact with Xiao Jing. My mother told me not to get too close to little uncle, Chung Li Su said. She said that he doesn't care about family ties. He thought for a moment. Military Governor Xiao, is not that kind of person. I know. Chung Li Su smiled. I always knew. The Xiao family had two young masters. The eldest young master was calm and gentle. When they interacted with each other, it was like a spring breeze. He was friendly and warm-hearted. Everyone loved him. The second young master's appearance was outstanding. However, for the sake of fairness, his personality was not very likable. Furthermore, after killing Zhao Nuo, Xiao Ju's reputation as jade-faced military governor, young killer spread. Others did not dare to look up to him. Of course, Zhao Tong added fuel to the fire. However, Xiao Ju himself also left behind many rumors. For example, when his parents were buried, he did not shed a single tear. He was busy fighting for military power in the throne room. He did not even spend the 7th day of the funeral, leaving eldest young master Xiao to clean up the mess by himself. Every time the relatives gathered together during festivals, he did not like to talk to them. He only hurriedly left after meeting them. Chung Li Su still remembered that it was a summer day. Eldest aunt by Wei was hosting the relatives of the Chung family. The Xiao family did not have many people nowadays. It was rare for it to be so lively. Chung Li Su also went. At that time, Xiao Ju had already been bestowed the title of General Fengyan. He had just turned 18 and returned to Shuajing. The women were all eating snacks and drinking tea in the main room. The men were discussing politics with Xiao Jing. Chung Li Su looked around and did not see Xiao Ju. He was very naughty when he was young. Everyone around his age did not like to play with him. Chung Li Su looked for fun. He ran to the Xiao family's backyard and saw a cat with a colorful face. He chased after the cat and ran behind a screen inside the ancestral hall. It was summer and the weather changed quickly. In the evening, there were already dark clouds above the city walls. Thunder rumbled, and suddenly, heavy rain poured down. He held the cat in his arms and wanted to go out. Suddenly, he heard footsteps. Someone came in. Chung Li Su secretly poked his head out from behind the screen and saw his mysterious uncle walk in. The young man was wearing a round satin robe with a golden crown on his head. He had a graceful appearance and was like a glittering jewel. When he was young, he liked to wear white robes. Now that he was older, he only liked to wear dark clothes. It made him seem even colder and harder to understand. Xiao Ju walked into the ancestral hall. He picked up 3 incense sticks and lit them. Chung Li Su's eyes widened. There were all kinds of rumors about Xiao Ju. Chung Li Su heard that Xiao Ju never lit incense for his parents. He was a heartless person. But now, it seemed that the rumors were not completely true. He moved slowly but carefully. First, he dusted the incense burner and wiped it clean with cloth. Then, he lit the incense sticks and inserted them into the burner. Niao niao, smoke rose from the burner and dispersed in the air. He did not leave. He did not say anything. He just stood there with his eyes lowered. No one knew what he was thinking. The summer weather was hot and humid. Water vapor came in from the outside. It was sticky and the thunder was louder. The young man narrowed his eyes. His expression was calm. The rain outside washed the eaves, but inside the house, it was unbelievably quiet. Chung Li didn't understand what was going on, but he felt that the atmosphere was strange. He didn't even dare to breathe loudly. He hugged the cat and sat behind the screen with his cold uncle for more than an hour. After a long time, the rain stopped. Xiao Ju left the ancestral hall. From the time he entered the ancestral hall to the time he left, he only lit 3 incense sticks. He did not say anything and did nothing. He just sat there quietly. But these 3 incense sticks made Chung Li Su feel that under his uncle's cold appearance, there was a different gentleness. He was not the heartless person that others said he was. There were many people in the world who hid their true feelings under their cold appearance. It was not that there were no such people, but they were not good at expressing themselves. Others always said that Chung Li Su was still like a child, naive and ignorant. However, in the eyes of a child, he was able to distinguish between good and evil. He did not think that this uncle of his was as mean as his mother said. He liked this uncle more than eldest young Master Xiao. My uncle is very powerful. Chung Li Su looked seriously into her eyes and said, if you stay with him for a long time, you will also like him. He Yin laughed and couldn't help but rub his head. I know. I knew a long time ago. Thousands of miles away in Shuajing, the spring river was also full of sparks. The water lanterns reflected on the water and under the water. It was impossible to tell the difference between heaven and earth. Today it was drizzling. Above the water lanterns, there was a small paper cover to prevent them from being extinguished by the rain. In the ancestral hall of the Xiao Fu, someone was burning incense. Ever since Xiao Zhongwu and his wife had passed away, the number of servants in the general's fu had decreased greatly. There were only 2 young masters, and Xiao Ju was often away from the fu. In the end, it was only Xiao Jing and his wife who did not need so many servants. Normally, it was quiet, but when he looked at it occasionally, it was a little cold and cheerless. Xiao Jing wore a jade-colored robe. He was as tall and warm as bamboo. When he stood next to Bai Rongwei beside him, anyone would praise them as an immortal couple. Niao niao, the autumn rain continued outside. A cool wind blew. He took off his cloak and covered Bai Rongwei with it. In a warm voice, he said, "The weather is cold. Be careful not to catch a cold." "I'm not cold." Bai Rongwei smiled at him and said worriedly, "I wonder what the weather is like in Liangzhou. Tonight is the Hungry Ghost Festival." Xiao Jing looked at the drizzle in the courtyard and said, "If Huijin was here, it would be good. He won't come to the ancestral hall." Bai Rongwei shook her head. "He won't enter the ancestral hall. He will enter." Xiao Jing's answer was very certain. Bai Rongwei looked at him with surprise. "But I've never seen him before. It's raining today, and there's thunder." Xiao Jing smiled. "He will enter." "Ruby, I don't understand." Bai Rongwei did not understand. When Huijin was very young, he was brought to the mountains by his father and was taught by an expert. Xiao Jing held her hand and said softly, "Throughout the year, we only see him a few times. He has a proud personality. Mother does not like him to play with knives and sticks." In reality, the relationship between Huijin and Mother has never been good. Madame Xiao was the Empress Dowager's niece. That year, it was the Empress Dowager who had bestowed this marriage. Xiao Zhongwu was handsome and powerful, and Madame Xiao liked him very much. But after the marriage, the conflict between the two gradually came to light. Madame Xiao was a delicate flower that grew up in the house. She could not bear the slightest grievance. Xiao Zhongwu was, after all, a military officer. He was not as attentive as the son of an aristocratic family. Although he had never taken a wife, sometimes it made Madame Xiao unhappy. During the years when the two of them quarreled most fiercely, it was because of Xiao Ju. Madame Xiao did not want her 2 sons to become martial artists. Swords and arrows had no eyes on the battlefield. She herself did not like killing and was a gentle and kind Buddhist. At that time, Xiao Jing missed the best opportunity to practice martial arts because of his health. He had no other choice. Xiao Ju, on the other hand, had been regarded as the future successor by Xiao Zhongwu since young. Madame Xiao did not want her son to follow in Xiao Zhongwu's footsteps. But for the first time, Xiao Zhongwu, who had always been obedient to Madame Xiao, did not listen to his wife's advice. The son had been separated from his mother for too long. Although they were related by blood, they were still unfamiliar with each other. Moreover, Xiao Ju was not as obedient and gentle as Xiao Jing when she was young. Sometimes, she would even show a rebellious side. Facing this cold and arrogant son, Madame Xiao did not know how to get along with him. Madame Xiao tried to be friendly with Xiao Ju, but Xiao Ju's reaction was also indifferent. Madame Xiao liked to drink tea and discuss poetry, but Xiao Ju liked to practice swordsmanship and ride horses. Although Xiao Ju was also good at poetry, the one who accompanied Madame Xiao in the end was Xiao Jing. My mother told me in private that she was actually a little afraid of Huijin. Xiao Jing said, seemingly amused. After that, she did not deliberately talk to Huijin. The two of them were always very polite to each other. Huijin was actually very pitiful. Xiao Jing's smile became sad. My father was cold and hard. He did not tolerate Huijin at all. I only found out later that he suffered a lot on the mountain. If he did not tell us, we all thought that he was living a good life. If it were me, I probably would not have been able to hold on for long. He laughed self-deprecatingly. Bai Rong patted his hand comfortingly. Nonsense. You could do well too. Xiao Jing recalled the year when Xiao Ju came down from the mountain. He asked his younger brother, "How was it on the mountain?" The youth stretched lazily and smiled lightly. Not bad. The three words, not bad, hid all the hardships he had suffered. All that was left was a high-spirited second young master Xiao. Others say that a strict father and a loving mother. My father was strict with him, but my mother was not always by his side. When she finally came back, she was overly polite because she was afraid of him. My mother thought that he liked sweets, so she often made osmanthus sweets for him. Huaijin would always eat it clean. Even I was fooled. Later, his close followers said that Huaijin did not eat sweets. Because this was the only way my mother could express her love for him. He ate it, even if he did not like it, even if no one asked him what he liked to eat. Bai Rong sighed slightly and did not say anything. Although I was his elder brother, I did not seem to have helped him much. Others always said that he was heartless and that he was not as good as me. However, they do not know that the reason why I can be the honorable eldest young Master Xiao today is because he bore a lot of burden for me. I know this, and he knows it too. He smiled bitterly. Now, I regret that my father did not let me join the military. If I did not become a civil official, perhaps I would be the one to bear the burden of the Xiao family today. Huaijin does not need to be misunderstood by others. We all know that Huaijin is doing this for you. Bai Rong said softly, "Father and mother will know too." Xiao Jing looked at the memorial tablet in the ancestral hall. He said, when Huaijin was young, he was not close to mother. He would go out every 2 or 3 days. In fact, he cared about mother. My mother was timid and easily frightened. She was most afraid of thunder. Every time there was thunder, if Huaijin was at home, he would find an excuse to go to mother's room to sit. Every time mother saw Huaijin, she would think about how to get along with Huaijin and forget about the thunder. When the rain stopped, Huaijin would leave. At first, I did not understand. One time, there was thunder and rain. I was outside with him, but he suddenly said that he had something important to do and had to return home. When he returned home, he said that he wanted to eat osmanthus candy. Mother was busy cooking for him. I suddenly understood that Huaijin was just afraid that mother would be frightened by the thunder, so he deliberately found an excuse to come back. Bai Rong heard this and also laughed. She shook her head and said, "Huaijin is really..." Unfortunately, mother did not know Huaijin's feelings for her until she died, Xiao Jing said bitterly. If she had known, perhaps she would not have ended up like this today. Bai Rong Wei held his hand tightly. Mother's spirit in heaven will understand. He accompanied mother when she was alive and after she died. As long as he was at home, whenever there was thunder and rain, he would come to the ancestral hall to accompany mother. Xiao Jing smiled slightly. This is a secret. I did not tell anyone. I think that Huaijin also did not want anyone to know. Xiao Ju was too proud. He did these things like the spring rain, silently moistening things. He did not ask for any results. But in the end, if one thought about it seriously, he felt that he was the one who was owed the most. So you said that if he was in Shuajing today, he would also come to the ancestral hall to accompany mother. Bai Rong Wei understood. He is that kind of person. Xiao Jing smiled. The smoke in the incense burner floated into the air and slowly dissipated without a trace. The people of the past had become the past. The unspoken care and companionship would no longer have a chance to be explained. Ruby, you have to know, Bai Rong Wei pulled Xiao Jing's hand and said gently, Huaijin did these things to protect Xiao family. Right now, Huaijin is far away in Liangzhou. Prime Minister Su's faction still sees Xiao family as a thorn in their side. You have to be more alert and not let Huaijin's efforts go to waste. Xiao Jing stilled slightly and then smiled. He said, of course I know. I know that you care about Huaijin. Bai Rong Wei's voice softened. But I also care about you. Huaijin has taken on many responsibilities, but are you not the same? Prime Minister Su is secretly suppressing Xiao family and finding fault with you. You are careful at every step in court. How can you be relaxed? You don't have to worry. Xiao Jing smiled. The most difficult time has passed. Bai Rong stilled for a moment and then smiled. You are right. The rain did not stop. The courtyard in Shuajing was soaked. Thousands of li away in Liangzhou, there was someone leaning on the window in a daze. His fine black hair fell on his shoulders, smooth and cold like silk. His expression was indifferent. The sound of a flute came from the distance. Someone was playing a tune from his hometown. As he listened, he softly smiled. This smile contained a bit of self-mockery and loneliness. After a moment, he closed the window and isolated the night outside. The light in the room flickered slowly, reflecting his starry eyes. On the table was a long wooden tray. Scattered rice grains were piled on the tray. The rice grains were different, and small flags made of red cloth were inserted. Shinhan, Liang Ping, and the other instructors were all in the room. They surrounded the table and stared at Xiao Ju's movements. Governor, these are the places to put the flags? Isn't there too many? Not too many. The youth's figure was like jade. He held a chess piece and pointed at the red flag at the top. In 7 days, the flag battle will take place on Mount Baiwei. Chapter 80. 7 days was enough time for He Yan's leg to fully recover. Although the injury on his hand was not completely healed, as long as he did not practice with his bow or spear, it would not hinder his daily activities. During these 7 days of waiting, the day of the battle for the flag finally arrived. Liang Ping came to visit He Yin the night before the battle for the flag and asked He Yin how he was doing. He Yin was afraid that he would not be allowed to participate in the battle for the flag, so he hurriedly said, "Very good, very good, very good. Liang Jiaodo, do you want to exchange a few moves with me?" Liang Ping thought of the equestrian archery competition he had with He Yin and felt embarrassed. He immediately coughed lightly and said, "No need, as long as you are fine. Come up the mountain with us tomorrow." After he left, He Yin almost cheered out loud. Hong Shan smiled and said, "You finally got what you wanted. I don't know what the battle for the flag is like." Xiao Mai looked at He Yin and pleaded, "After He Gu goes down the mountain, you must tell us word by word. Isn't your brother going up the mountain as well? Why are you only asking a he?" Hong Shan said, "My brother won't tell us." Xiao Mai curled her lips. There were tens of thousands of new recruits in the Liangzhou Guard. Of course, not all of them would go up the mountain to compete for the flag. Moreover, they were selecting for the Vanguard Battalion, so they only selected those who performed exceptionally well on the training field. Xiao Mai and Hong Shan could only be considered average and were not part of the battle for the flag. In their room, only Shi Tu and He Yin were selected to go up the mountain. "The injury on your hand is not completely healed." Hong Shan was worried for He Yin. "When the time comes, don't fight recklessly. If you can't beat them, run, understand? The entire Liangzhou Guard knows that you are strong, so it doesn't matter who wins or loses. Ehigu will be at a disadvantage like this." Xiao Mai felt indignant. If Ehigu wasn't injured, Ehigu would definitely be first. "It's okay." He Yin comforted her. "Even if I'm injured, I'll still be the first." When the others in the room heard this, they all laughed. "It's here again. Our arena master, he is going to set up an arena on the mountain again. Does anyone want to bet on biscuits?" "Bet my ass. I haven't even paid back what I lost last time." He Yan's heart relaxed a little amidst the clamor. In fact, she hadn't competed for the flag in a long time, and her memories of the last time weren't too good. She wasn't the one who performed the most brilliantly, so no one knew what the result would be this time. However, compared to the results of the battle for the flag, the most important thing was their performance during the battle for the flag. If they wanted to join the 9 Flags Battalion, they wouldn't just be looking at the results of this test. Presumably, all the instructors were hiding in the dark on Mount Baiwei and had a panoramic view of their performance. The person who performed the best might have the chance to enter the 9 Flags Battalion. Therefore, rather than calling this a competition, it would be better to call it a performance. From beginning to end, there was only one person in the audience, and that was second young Master Xiao. She had to put in 120% effort and make every step beautiful and thoughtful in order to win Xiao Ju's favor. She should be able to do it. Outside the Guard Institute, Shunhan cupped his hands in greeting to Xiao Ju. "Commander-in-Chief, everything is ready." Green Ears kicked a few times to the side. Xiao Ju stroked its head and said, "Let's go." Shen Han nodded. Suddenly, he remembered something. About young Master Chung. I've already sent people to protect him in the dark. Don't worry. He looked in the direction of Mount Baiwei. It's about time. Let them depart immediately. Shen Han replied, "Yes, sir." He Yin arrived at the training field. He didn't see Liang Ping, but he saw Du Mao. Du Mao held a booklet in his hand and called out He Yin and Shirtu's names. The two of them went forward and saw Jiang Jiao, Huang Xiong, and Wang Ba standing on the side. 5 people form a group during the flag battle. You're in the same group. Du Mao said, "After the time it takes to burn a stick of incense, you'll depart on foot and head to Mount Baiwei. Don't cross the mountain. There are red flags everywhere on the mountain. You'll have to return before sunset." After a pause, he continued, "There will be 30 groups of recruits going up the mountain. The group with the most flags will be the winner. There are weapons on the weapons rack. Quickly pick a suitable one. Crossbows can't be used. During the flag battle on Mount Baiwei, don't hurt your comrades. Don't overdo it. Don't hurt your own life. Don't worry about your comrades." They all nodded. Jiang Jiao chose the long spear that he was good at. Huang Xiong took his golden broadsword. Wang Ba was good at crossbows, but crossbows couldn't be used in this battle. Therefore, he chose a phoenix head axe, which looked very cool. Shirtu took an iron head stick. Everyone looked at He Yin and thought He Yin was going to take the Mandarin duck saber. Unexpectedly, she took a 9-section whip from the rack. Shirtu was a bit hesitant. They all knew that He Yin was good with the saber, crossbow, and spear, but they didn't know how good she was with the whip. In the end, the whip didn't look as impressive as the saber or sword. "You'll know when we get to the mountain." He Yin smiled. "Let's go." They each took their own weapons and rushed towards Mount Baiwei. Du Mao laughed loudly behind them and said, "I'll be waiting for your good news here. Go, boys." The birds in the forest were startled and flew in all directions. The people disappeared into the forest in the blink of an eye. Ma Damiai and Liang Ping came from afar, each leading a horse. Ma Damiai said to Liang Ping, "It's almost time. Let's go." 30 teams and more than 100 new recruits were in Mount Baiwei. They were like fish in the sea, unable to see anything. Just as they stepped into the forest, Wang Ba suddenly said, "Wait." They stopped and looked at him. "What?" "Someone went up the mountain before us. What if they're lying in ambush in the forest, and we step into a trap?" "Don't worry," He Yin said with a smile. "The battle for the flag has just begun. Everyone is busy fighting for the flag. We don't have a single flag in our hands right now. What's the use of ambushing us? I guess everyone is going to the Shannon White Stone." "Why the Shannon White Stone?" Jiang Jiao asked. "Shirtu, show them the map." He Yin looked at Shirtu. Shirtu took out a roll of paper from his bosom and slowly unfolded it. There were several red dots drawn on the paper, but they were only general directions. Every team that fought for the flag was given a map. The location of the flag was indicated on the map, but it was only general directions. The map was drawn very carelessly, and there were no trees or rivers. There were only 4 directions: north, south, east, and west. "Look, there are a total of 20 flags." He Yin pointed at the red dot at the bottom. "The one closest to the foot of the mountain should be the mountainside. When the new recruits enter the mountain, they will naturally search for the nearest flag and try to get it. There's a small stream next to the Shannon White Stone. The surrounding area is wide, and there are no trees to cover it. This flag should be the easiest to find. Most of the brothers who went up the mountain before us are probably looking for this flag. How do you know it's a Shannon White Stone?" Huang Xiong was suspicious. "There's only 1 dot on it. I'm just guessing, but don't worry. When I was patrolling the mountain, I memorized the path. Even if there's a deviation, I can find it easily." "Weren't you chased by wolves when you were patrolling the mountain?" Wang Ba couldn't help but ask. "You still remember the path?" "Yes, when I was chased by wolves, I also took a look at the path. When I came back, I memorized it again. I'm very familiar with it." He Yin looked at him with a smile. "You have to believe in your boss. There's absolutely no problem." Hearing this, Wang Ba suppressed his anger and turned his head away. He didn't want to look at He Yin anymore. He Yin couldn't help but laugh. It was necessary to memorize the terrain and every path on the battlefield. She had been the Vanguard Battalion before, and the most important thing was to understand the enemy's situation and the surrounding environment at the beginning of the battle. Then what were we waiting for? Let's go straight to the Shannon Whitestone to grab the flag. Huang Xiong carried his broadsword on his back. How do we get there? Yin, this guy doesn't know the way. We're not going in this direction, Yin said. Why not? Huang Xiong frowned. Right now, there must be a lot of people fighting for the same flag. If we want to grab it, there are too many opponents. It's not worth it. Yin shook his head. Let's not join the fun. Let's go in this direction. She pointed in the opposite direction on the map. There was also a red dot there. There's a dense forest here, and the path is very steep. It's easy to get lost. I thought about it. Unless it's someone who remembers the path very well, it's very difficult to find this flag. So it shouldn't be easy for others to take it away. We'll go straight there and take this flag first. There are only 20 flags in total. I think we only need to take more than half of them to win. So at the beginning, we'll look for these hidden flags that won't be noticed by others. It'll save us some energy. After all, when it comes to fighting for a flag, it's not necessarily the strength of the hands, but here. She pointed at her head. Was she praising herself for being smart in a different way? The others were a little speechless. Huang Xiong asked, "Do you really remember the path?" "Absolutely." Yin blinked and said, "I won't forget the path." The young man was wearing a red outfit. Although he was thin and weak, his eyes were especially cunning and quick-witted. The sunlight shining through the gaps in the forest shone on his body, making him seem as if his whole body was glowing. Okay. Let's go." Wang Ba was the first to speak. "Let's go quickly. If we're late, it'll all be taken by others. What's the point of fighting?" Sure Tu and Yin were in the same group, so naturally, he didn't say anything. Jiang Jiao was young, and he admired Yin for the previous shooting competition, so he didn't have any objections. The others all agreed. Huang Xiong, who was the oldest, also didn't say anything. Most importantly, he had no sense of direction. If no one led the way, he could wander around in the forest for 3 days and 3 nights. Therefore, the 5 of them unexpectedly regarded Yin as their leader. The 5 of them walked up the mountain together. Because they didn't ride horses, the mountain path was rugged. At first, everyone was worried that Yin wouldn't be able to keep up. However, when they saw her light and relaxed expression, they gradually relaxed. They knew that with Yin's physical strength, it shouldn't be a problem for her to reach the top of the mountain. Yin, as she said, seemed to have walked the path of Mount Baiwei countless times and memorized all the small paths. She avoided all the main roads that could possibly collide with other groups and only took the smaller paths. The paths were harder to walk on, but the distance was much shorter. Moreover, every thicket that seemed to have no path was pushed aside by her, and she actually walked on another path. "You guys should think more about everything." Yin sighed and said, "Does the path have to be straight? Can't it be curved? Do people have to walk on the ground? Can't you learn from a gecko and climb up the wall? Rules are dead, but people are alive. If you put in more effort, many things aren't so complicated." "Everyone," Huang Xiong said in a muffled voice, "I'm 46 this year." Yin answered while walking, "Yes. You're only 16 this year." In other words, what right did a 16-year-old brat have to teach his elders? The elders have eaten more salt than you have eaten rice. Yin said, "But you still don't know the way." Huang Xiong didn't know how to respond. What kind of person was this? He was completely invulnerable. As they talked, they climbed over a mound and saw a small flag hidden in the bushes, standing alone on the ground. "Found it." Jiang Jiao's eyes lit up. He took a few steps forward and held the flag in his hand. "There really is one. It really was found," Wang Ba muttered. Seeing the young man leaning against a tree, he said leisurely, "I already said that I won't forget." Seeing this, the monitors hiding in the bushes took 2 steps forward and whispered, "What's going on? How did they find it so quickly?" It was reasonable to say that the flag was hidden deep in the bushes and the road was not easy to walk on. Most people should be fighting for the white stone flag in the south of the mountain. However, at this time, this group of people had come here directly from the beginning. Moreover, they didn't encounter any obstacles on the way. Did they know the location of the flag in advance? Don't worry about it. Hurry up and reply. The monitor quickly wrote a few words on a piece of paper and sealed it into the copper tube on the pigeon's leg. In a room in the station, the black and white pieces on the chessboard were scattered. Someone was playing chess. A pigeon flew to the young man's shoulder and cooed twice. The latter took the copper tube from its leg and took out the note to read it. Shenhan looked at the note in confusion. Xiao Ju passed the note to him. Shenhan took it and read it. After a moment, he said in shock, "They found it so quickly. It's expected." Xiao Ju curled his lips and smiled. His eyes became clearer and clearer. He said, "At this time, he came here directly in the morning. There were 20 flags on the White Moon Mountain. The closest flag was next to the white stone in the south of the mountain. Although it had been found early in the morning, there were too many people who came to fight for it. Until now, there was no clear winner. Instead, the flag in He Yan's hand became the first flag to be found. This was because no one came to fight for it. He remembers the way." Shenhan was suspicious. Even if there was a patrol at the beginning, it was impossible for a person to remember the way so well. Moreover, at the beginning, the recruits didn't know the purpose of patrolling the mountain, so they didn't deliberately remember the way. To be able to remember half of it was already very good. Not necessarily. Maybe, Xiao Ju said, he just knew about today's flag fight in advance. If he knew about it in advance, he would deliberately remember it when he was patrolling the mountain. Or he could think deeper. Yan had the specific map of the White Moon Mountain from the beginning. Therefore, when he saw the flag, he knew the specific location. Shenhan frowned. If that's the case, he is indeed suspicious. What should we do next? Continue. The young man smiled faintly. He took his time to place a chess piece. It's not over yet. The winner is unknown. We will only know the result at the end. There's no need to rush. After He Yin found the flag, he led the other 4 people to continue walking up the mountain. Her path, on the other hand, seemed to be a bit shorter than the others. Occasionally, there would be recruits from other groups that couldn't be avoided. Before the other party could notice, He Yin had everyone lie down in the grass or behind the bushes so that they wouldn't meet them head-on. Wang Bao was a little dissatisfied. He was used to being the leader of the mountain bandits. When had he ever been so timid? He only said, "We're not afraid of them. Why are we hiding? I think we shouldn't hide. Let's just go and fight for it." "It's still early," he impatiently explained to him. "The other recruits we meet may not have flags, but we have flags. Once there's a conflict, if we win, we may not get the spoils. If we lose, we even lose the flags in our hands. Isn't it not worth it?" Seeing that Wang Ba was still unwilling, she unfolded the map in her hand and showed it to Wang Ba. "I've seen it. Just like before, there are a total of 3 flags hidden in the depths of the forest. We've already gotten one, so there's still 2 more. If we walk along this path, we should be able to find the last flag, which is close to the top of the mountain. We'll get these 3 flags first. After we get these 3 flags, we'll reach the top of the mountain." She said, "When we reach the top of the mountain, we'll think about what to do next." These words barely convinced Wang Ba. He said, "This is what you said. There's still 2 flags. If there aren't any," he waved his fist, "I'll teach you a lesson." Ian wasn't afraid at all. She smiled and took his fist away. "Little brother, you can't be so rude to boss." She looked into the distance. "Let's go." The sun was getting brighter. Although the depths of the forest weren't as hot as the bottom of the mountain, because the mountain path was rugged, everyone was sweating profusely. There were many birds, beasts, insects, and ants on the mountain, and they even encountered a few snakes on the road. Surprisingly, Yin dealt with these unexpected situations with ease. Compared to Wang Ba, she was more like the master of the mountain. If they didn't know that Yin was a recruit from Shuajing, they would have thought that she was a hunter born and raised on Mount Baiwei. She didn't lie. Although the path she led was a bit bumpy, she was able to find the other 2 flags without any hindrance. The last flag was taken by Jiang Jiao. Huang Xiong looked ahead and said uncertainly, "The top of the mountain is in front of us." Ian nodded. "That's right." She looked down the mountain. "We took a shortcut. Along the way, We didn't meet any other groups that were faster than us. We should be the first to reach the top of the mountain. While the other recruits were busy fighting for the flags, they avoided other people and only looked for the flags. It was very convenient and also saved a lot of time. Wang Ba sat down under a tree, unscrewed the water bottle at her waist, and drank a big mouthful of water. She said, "We didn't do anything except kill 2 snakes. We took 2 axes for nothing. I say, we're here to look for something, not to steal something, right?" It was quite sullen to avoid other people and look for something secretly. Although Huang Xiong and Jiang Jiao didn't say anything, their expression showed that they agreed with Wang Ba's words. Shi Tu said, "It's fine as long as we win. There's no need to stick to the method." Brother Shi Tu is smart. He smiled. "If you want to compete, why don't you just go to the martial arts practice field and challenge them? Fighting for the flag isn't a test of one's skills." She clapped her hands, looked at everyone, and smiled. "However, I never said that we were going to hide here forever." He said, "Let's all prepare." "Prepare for what?" Jiang Jiao didn't understand. He smiled faintly. "Robbery." Chapter 81. Rob. Jiang Jiao stuttered. What rob? We've already arrived here, and the time and place are in our favor. If we don't rob them, wouldn't we be letting God down? She called Wang Ba. "Brother Wang, this time you're going to do what you're used to doing. Don't you remember the rules?" Wang Ba was a little angry, but also a little proud. He only said, "Of course I know. Then let's go step on the plate first." "What do you mean by step on the plate?" Jiang Jiao was confused. "I know this," Huang Xiong explained for him. "Lulin slang means scouting the surroundings first." Wang Ba snorted and said to Yin, "You even know the jargon." "I only know this one," Yin said. "If no one has any objections, how about I make the arrangements?" Everyone looked at her. "The terrain here is high, and we've arrived early. By the time the other groups arrive, they'll be tired and relaxed. All we need to do is lie in ambush here and steal their flag. There are 5 of us. One person needs to go up the tree to scout the situation, and the others need to lie in ambush. That person will be me." He pointed at himself. "I'll be up in the tree. When the others arrive, Brother Wang will lead them into our circle. Brother Jiang Jiao and Shi Tu, one of you will hold a long staff, and the other will hold a long spear. Spread out to the left and right. Uncle Huang will hold the rear, so we can surround them in the middle. At this time, I'll come down from the tree, and my 9-section whip will take the opportunity to sweep away their flag." Everyone suddenly understood. No wonder Yin chose the 9-section whip. If a fight really broke out, they might not have the chance to get close. However, as long as the whip was far away, they could sweep the flag over. "Why do I have to be the bait?" Wang Ba was dissatisfied. "I can hold the rear." "Because you're the best," Yin lied without batting an eyelid. "If it were anyone else holding the flag to lure people over, they would definitely be suspicious. But you're different. You're the best among the recruits, so it's reasonable for you to snatch the flag. It's best that you hold it." Jiang Jiao wanted to laugh, but he held it in. Shi Tu and Huang Xiong silently lowered their heads. Only Wang Ba deeply agreed. His dissatisfaction with Yan's arrangement immediately disappeared. But will this arrangement really work? Jiang Jiao was doubtful. What if they're stronger than us? "Don't worry, we've already arrived here first. We've rested longer than them, so we have plenty of energy. Moreover, flanking them from the left and right, with both offense and defense, would only cause them to panic. Moreover, our goal is not to fight with them, but to compete for the flag. Military books say that those who first enter the battlefield and wait for the enemy will be lost. Those who enter the battlefield and rush to fight will be exhausted. Therefore, those who are good at fighting will not cause others to be injured." Among the 5 people here, only Jiang Jiao and Yin had studied before. Before the others could react, Jiang Jiao looked at Yin and asked with a complicated expression, "You've read military books?" "A little," Yin answered. Huang Xiong looked at Jiang Jiao, then looked at Yin. He sighed, "I remember you once said that you've read something called the Book of Arms, and now you say that you've read books on the art of war. With your ability, there will be a day when your name will spread far and wide, and you won't be in the same place as us. You flatter me, He Yin said with a smile. Anyway, don't forget about us when you're rich. Wang Ba whispered. He probably felt embarrassed and added, but you don't look like you'll be rich. He Yin shrugged and said, then let's find a place to hide first. I'll climb up the tree first. You guys eat and rest. Brother Jiang, give a flag to Brother Wang. Wait for my whistle. I'll use the partridge whistle as a signal. Once the whistle arrives, Brother Wang will take the flag and lead the others here. No one objected. They scattered and found a place to hide. Yin found a tall camphor tree and climbed up with his head up. She climbed the tree nimbly. Wang Ba saw this and whispered, she's like a snake with 4 legs. Yin climbed to the top of the tree in one breath and found the most luxuriant spot to sit down. The wind was blowing and made her face feel cool. It was indescribably comfortable. Her position was high enough that she could see everything around her. Seeing that no other recruits had come up yet, she took out a small piece of biscuit from her bosom. She took 2 bites and drank some water. After she finished eating the biscuit and leaned against the tree branch for a few minutes, she heard rustling sounds coming from a nearby path. A group of recruits had come up. Yin immediately sat up straight. She hid among the leaves and didn't move. She softly let out a partridge whistle and blew 3 times in a row. Her whistle was exactly the same as a partridge's. If she hadn't told them in advance, Jiang Jiao and the others wouldn't have been able to tell. Huang Xiong, who was hiding in the dark, gave Wang Ba a meaningful glance. Wang Ba hung up the water bottle, stood up with the flag in his hand, and walked outside. Perhaps it was because he was used to this kind of robbing business, but when he put on an act, no one could tell that there was anything wrong with him. After every 2 steps, Wang Ba looked left and right, as if he was a person who had just arrived and was scouting the way. As he walked, he bumped into the group of new recruits who were coming up the mountain. The recruit didn't have time to speak before Wang Ba covered his waist and ran back. It would have been better if he didn't cover his waist. As soon as he did, people saw the red flag at his waist. The recruit stared blankly and then became excited. He said to the people behind him, he's alone. He has a red flag. Brothers, take it. Hearing this, the group of people immediately chased after him. Wang Ba seemed to be alone and didn't want to fight. He just ran and cursed, Ba, don't follow your grandpa. If you follow me again, I'll chop you up. The group of people saw the red flag in Wang Ba's hand as theirs. They laughed and chased after him, saying, then chop it up. Brother, hand over the flag and we won't kill you. I'll hand over your grandma. If you chase me again, I won't be polite. Wang Ba warned. Who's the one being rude? The group of people laughed and chased after him. When they ran into a dense forest, Wang Ba suddenly stopped. What's wrong? You can't run anymore? The leader of the recruits laughed and imitated the bandit leader. I opened this mountain and planted these trees. If you want to pass through here, you have to pay the toll. Wang Ba originally wanted to show off, but when he heard this, he was so angry that he laughed. He pulled out 2 huge axes from his waist, turned around and shouted, how can a pheasant go up the Heavenly King Mountain? How dare you snatch it from me? Your grandfather? I think you must have been blinded by lard. You're not muddle-headed. No one could understand his string of bandit words. The other party didn't want to waste time with him. He raised his sword and stabbed it toward the flag at his waist. At this moment, there was a sudden noise behind him. 2 young men suddenly appeared from the bushes on his left and right. One was holding a long spear, and the other was holding an iron rod. They were Jiang Jiao and Shi Tu. Another loud noise was heard. The bald man with the golden broadsword had already jumped in front of him. Just now it was 5 against 1, and Wang Ba was scared witless. Now that the situation had taken a turn, it was like catching a turtle in a jar. There were ambushes in all directions. It was only 4 people, but they made it seem like there was an ambush on all sides. Those people were stunned for a moment, and their smiles gradually disappeared. It's an ambush. They're cheating. Along the way, they either used real swords and spears to rob people, or they hid in the dark and fought a fierce battle. It was the first time that they had a bait acting in front of them like a drama. The leader of the recruits gritted his teeth. What are you afraid of? We have the same number of people. We're not afraid of them. Let's fight them. Turning around, the few of them rushed into the chaotic battle. To be honest, although these people each had their own strengths, they weren't one in a million. After all the recruits who came up the mountain today were outstanding talents of the Liangzhou guards. But the strange thing was that Jiang Jiao and the others had gained the upper hand as soon as they started fighting. First of all, they had been here for a long time. They had rested and eaten for a long time, and they had been saving their energy for a long time. On the other hand, the other group of recruits had just finished a long journey. They didn't even have time to sit down and drink water before they were caught in a chaotic battle. Naturally, they were in a passive position. Second of all, the way they arranged themselves was quite skillful. Jiang Jiao and Shi Tu were on the left and right sides, so that these people were surrounded from beginning to end. Huang Xiong's large saber was full of vigor, but it complemented Wang Ba's large axe perfectly. With 2 long weapons and 2 short weapons, they had both offensive and defensive capabilities. Unexpectedly, this recruit couldn't find any flaws in the other party's movements. Instead, he was constantly at a disadvantage. Jiang Jiao flicked his opponent's sword away with his spear and knocked his opponent's weapon to the ground. One of the recruits said, "This won't do. We can't get the flag. Let's retreat quickly." "How do we retreat?" The leader of the recruits said unhappily. "Find an opening and try." He wanted to break out of the encirclement several times, but he couldn't find an opening. However, if this continued, their own people wouldn't be able to hold on. That's not right. One of the recruits avoided Huang Xiong's large saber and turned around to ask, "Why are there only 4 of them? Where's the last one?" That's right. After fighting for so long, it was only 5 against 4. They were still missing 1 person, but because they were being suppressed so fiercely, they didn't notice. Now that someone reminded them, they immediately understood. The leader of the recruits said, "It's a trap. Pay attention to protecting the flag." As soon as his voice fell, he heard Wang Ba roar, "Hien, are you watching a show? Come out." From the leafy camphor tree, a young man's brisk voice sounded, "I'm coming." Suddenly, a red figure appeared in the dense forest. The young man was talking and laughing like a yin-yen. His posture was light and graceful, but in the eyes of the enemy, it was as if they were facing a great enemy. The man on the side didn't have time to hide the cloth bundle when suddenly a long shadow rushed towards his face. He was startled and subconsciously let go of his hand. The long shadow was like a snake, nimble and winding, and it wrapped around the cloth bundle and disappeared into the distance. The young man withdrew his 9-section whip and sat on a tree. Smiling, he shook his hand and the cloth bundle fell to the ground. She was holding a flag in her hand. She smiled and said, "Thank you." Then she turned around and disappeared into the forest, leaving behind a sentence, "I got the thing, let's go." The rest of Jiang Jiao's people acted as if they had received an order. They were still fighting fiercely just a moment ago, but now they didn't want to continue fighting. They put away their spears and ran. These people were already half dead from climbing the mountain, and after a fierce battle, they were also exhausted. How could they catch up? After chasing for a few hundred steps, they were exhausted and could only watch as the group of people ran far away and disappeared. What kind of bandits are they? Someone was paralyzed on the ground. He gritted his teeth and cursed. They are really lawless. What can we do? Thieves don't leave empty-handed. On the other side, Hien was asking Jiang Jiao to put away the red flag in his hand. He snapped his fingers and said, "Let's go." "Where are we going?" Wang Ba asked. "To rob the next group." The pigeon was pacing back and forth on the window. Someone sprinkled some rice on his palm, and the pigeon landed on his palm. It obediently allowed someone to take the copper pipe from its leg. After Xiao Ju finished reading the note, he handed it to Shan Han and shook his head with a smile. The words on the note were very simple. It only said one thing. Hien had set up ambushes all over the mountain. He had become a robber and had stolen the flags of several new recruits. Fighting for the flag was all about fighting for the flag. However, fighting for the flag in such a secretive and open manner was really unique. From the beginning, they only thought about the flag. They did not want to fight with the other recruits. Even when they set up ambushes later on, they still prioritized the flag. Those who did not have a flag did not even try to rob them. They just let the others walk past them. Those who had a flag took advantage of the situation and ran away after robbing them. In the end, they lost the least amount of money and obtained the most flags. He really knows how to curry favor. After a long while, Chun Han squeezed out these words. Not only does he know how to play tricks, but he also knows how to use troops, Xiao Ju said. Using troops, close to serve far away, waiting at ease for fatigue, and waiting for hunger with a full stomach. He curled his lips and said slowly, "The Liang Province Guard recruits have all been played like idiots by him." Shen Han was speechless. This young man really made people speechless. He suddenly remembered something. Speaking of which, these 5 people all treat him as their leader, and there are no objections. Actually, when it came to fighting for the flag, other than fighting with the other recruits, there were also disputes within each group. Everyone's habits and tactics were different, so it was not necessarily harmonious. Some small groups would even fight for the right to command, resulting in nothing in the end. Knowing how to cooperate and make arrangements also showed the abilities of the recruits. From this point, it could be said that he already had the ability to mobilize troops. Of these 5 people, other than Shi Tu, the others had all had conflicts with Yin. However, at present, no one was arguing with Yin because of this. This was also one of the outstanding aspects of this young man. These people are not bad. Shen Han thought for a moment. Jiang Jiao and the others are slightly better than the other recruits when they fight. Up until now, they have not lost a single battle. Commander-in-Chief, do you think these people are qualified to enter the vanguard? Xiao Ju laughed softly and did not comment. It's not that they are strong. It's because Yin has set up a formation. A small group that has set up a formation and a group of scattered soldiers can't be mentioned in the same breath. Commander-in-Chief, you mean? Shen Han seemed to understand. Spread out like a crane's wing on the left and right, with the general in the middle and back. Can't you see? Xiao Ju said. He used 5 people to set up the crane wing formation. Probably because this news was too shocking, Shen Han did not make sound. If a recruit knew how to set up a formation, then it could be said that there was something wrong with this person. Shen Han hesitated for a moment. Maybe it's a coincidence. Whether it's a coincidence or not, we'll know soon enough. Xiao Ju said. Fei Nu, the black-clothed bodyguard, quietly appeared behind him. Young master. Sent a message to the other captains on White Moon Mountain. He picked up the teacup on the table and took a sip. When going down the mountain, set up a formation. Commander-in-Chief. Shen Han was anxious. This will make it so that the other recruits won't be able to go down the mountain. Don't worry. The young man put down the teacup in his hand and turned to pick up the black chess piece in the box. In an instant, the situation changed. He said, someone will break the formation. On White Moon Mountain, under the cliff, a few people were hiding in the grass and counting the items. 1, 2, 3, 6. We got a total of 6 flags. Jiang Jiao was somewhat happy. Not even half. Wang Ba poured cold water on him. Why are you so happy? 6 flags is already very good, Huang Xiong said. Moreover, 3 of them were stolen. Of these 6 flags, 3 were found by Yin and the others by taking a shortcut. The other 3 were stolen from the recruits who already had flags near the top of the mountain. It's still not enough. Go and steal more. Wang Ba put away his axe. If we get more than half of them, we'll win. Yin shook his head. We can't steal anymore. Shi Tu frowned and asked why. Now that the other recruits are going up the mountain one after another, the recruits who were robbed before will definitely go around telling people that we stole their flags. I think we're already notorious in these people's mouths. Those recruits who have flags will only be more vigilant against us. Moreover, we've already robbed 3 places, so our strength is not as good as before. Who said that? Wang Ba gestured to the others to look at his strong arms. I'm full of strength, so I'm not tired at all. I can still rob a few more places. Yin said, Oh, what if a few of them join forces? Wang Ba was stunned for a moment. Yin spread his hands and said, We have 6 flags in our hands right now, which is equivalent to live targets. I think those recruits on the top of the mountain are smart enough to think of joining forces to steal the flags in our hands and divide them among themselves. Two fists can't fight against four hands. 5 of us against 10, 20, 30, or even 100 people. Do you think there's still a need to fight? Everyone was speechless. Then you tell us what to do. After a while, Wang Ba said impatiently, in this world, no matter how clever you are, if they're the first, there'll be a second. We just showed them how to take advantage of the situation. Thinking about it, the following recruits would follow the same pattern. We don't have to compete with those recruits one by one. We just have to compete with the strongest team among the remaining recruits. Jiang Jiao's eyes lit up. You mean, when they fight, we'll be the fisherman who benefits? Let the remaining recruits stay on the mountain. It didn't matter if the east wind prevailed over the west wind or the west wind prevailed over the east wind. There would always be one team that won. What they needed to do was to rob the winning team and snatch their flag. This way, they should be able to have half a flag. So, Huang Xiong looked at He Yin inquisitively. Let's go down the mountain. Go down the mountain now? Jiang Jiao was a little hesitant. If we go down the mountain now, it's still early and we can seize the opportunity. We'll hide on the path down the mountain. Regardless of whether the recruits get the flags or not, they will still pass by us. The team that snooped the most is our flock. You make it sound so simple. Wang Ba couldn't help but argue. The other party is not sheep. Since they can get so many flags, they must be fierce characters. We may not win. What you said makes sense. Ian nodded. So the battle at the bottom of the mountain will not be easy. But it doesn't matter. We will definitely win. Why? The young man smiled in high spirits. Because I'm here. Chapter 82. The group of people walked down the mountain. This young man didn't seem to know what modesty was. Although he was confident, he wasn't arrogant. He always seemed to have a card up his sleeve. However, he also had the ability to convince others. At least until now, he had kept his word. Jiang Jiao carefully kept the 6 flags in his arms. After walking for a few hours, they were already far from the top of the mountain. When they were about to reach the middle of the mountain, Ian stopped and said, "Let's rest here for now." Everyone sat down where they were, but Ian climbed up the tree again and looked around. Wang Ba asked, "What are you doing?" "Stepping on the plate," Ian answered. "You're so familiar with robbing. Why are you still stepping on the plate?" Wang Ba snorted. "You're pretending, aren't you?" Ian looked around and then climbed down the tree. He sat down on the shirt too and said, "This should be the last stop. Since we're using a trick, we have to succeed in one strike. Otherwise, with 6 flags, we might not be able to get first place." Will they really pass through here? Jiang Jiao turned around and looked behind him. The forest was dense, and there wasn't a single person in sight. There are so many mountain paths, and the mountain is so big. What if they take another path? There are only main roads and small paths on Mount Baiwa. Ian smiled. People who carry flags should always be careful. If they take the main road, it's inevitable that they'll attract attention. They're afraid that other recruits will come and steal them. Therefore, they definitely won't take the main road. Among the small paths, this is the shortest way to the guard station and also the easiest way to find. You have to know that not everyone can remember the path they take. Therefore, it's very likely that they'll take this path. Huang Xiong quite liked to listen to He Yin speak. He asked, "Is this the military strategy you were talking about?" "This is called the theory of power." He Yin picked up a tree branch and drew on the ground for them to see. The imperial decree doesn't choose a place to wait for the enemy. Instead, we use simplicity to control complexity. We don't change to respond to changes. We use small changes to respond to big changes. We don't move to respond to movements. We use small movements to respond to big movements. Wang Ba asked, "Then we don't move at all? Wasn't that what you said? Haven't our methods been exposed long ago? Others might fall for it." Think about it. Since the other party has obtained so many flags, they must have won many matches in a row. Their morale must have risen greatly. If they were to face us, they might not necessarily lose. Even so, He Yin did not show any signs of anxiety on his face. That's why we're going down the mountain, to conserve our energy. While we're at it, we can also find a good place to set up an ambush. However, I think that in the end, the most powerful people from both sides will be the ones to seize the flag. However, this is also natural. In the end, there will always be a victor between the most outstanding people. No one could answer her. Only Wang Ba gave her a sidelong glance and said coldly, "How are you the most outstanding person?" "I gave myself that title," Hien answered sincerely. Wang Ba, "Anyway, let's eat, drink, and rest here first. When we're done, we'll set up the ambush according to our plan just now. I have already surveyed this place. The terrain ahead is dangerous and narrow. It is easy to defend and difficult to attack. It is advantageous to us. We can take advantage of the situation. After I seize the flag, don't continue to fight. Quickly leave with me. Use the bottom of the mountain as the boundary. Once we leave White Moon Mountain, no one will be able to steal the flag." "Understood." Huang Xiong gulped down half a pot of water in one go. "I already can't wait." "Give me the flag," Hien said. Jiang Jiao handed the flag to her. Hien carried it on her body and said, "Presumably, the flag of the new recruit team that appears at the end will also be in the hands of the leader. At that time, I will definitely have to fight a fierce battle with him. You guys just need to keep the others busy and not let them get close." "Can you really do it alone?" Wang Ba asked. "There are 6 flags here. If we don't scatter them a bit, they won't all be taken away. You're underestimating your boss too much." Hien lightly jumped and landed on a branch. She laughed. "At least in the Liang Province Guard, no one can steal my things." Wang Xiaohan was currently leading one of their teams down the mountain. His clothes were already so tattered that they couldn't even cover his upper body. Fortunately, his pants were still intact. The blade in his hand had already been chipped. His face had also taken a punch. There were dark circles under his eyes. His companions behind him weren't any better. They all had bruises on their faces and tattered clothes. Those who didn't know would probably think that they were refugees from outside the city. Wang Xiaoan felt very hopeless. When the Liang Province Guard recruits competed for the flag, they were all very proud at first, and their blood was boiling. Who knew that when they actually went up the mountain, they would realize that this wasn't the case? They had to find the flags that were messily hidden in the rugged mountain path. They had to be wary of snakes, insects, and wild beasts that appeared in the mountains. They also had to be wary of the traps that hunters set. If they had to compete with other recruits, it would be fine if they met someone with gentle methods. If they met someone with cruel methods, they would be beaten until their flesh was torn open. Even though the instructors said that they wouldn't harm their lives before going up the mountain, but in a fight, it was impossible to come out unscathed. They really didn't endanger their lives. But they were beaten. Wang Xiaohan felt wronged. This was the first time in his life that he had been beaten so badly, and their flags had been stolen. Whatever, it was stolen. Wang Xiaoan could also see that their team couldn't compare to the others. It was fine as long as they could safely go down the mountain. Whoever wanted to go to the Vanguard camp can go. Fuck the Vanguard camp. Fuck the flag competition. Just as he was thinking, he stepped into a clump of dead branches. Something hit his forehead. It didn't hurt, but it gave him a fright. He looked up and saw a red, clothed youth sitting on the oak tree in front of him. He held an acorn in his hand and was about to aim it at his forehead. Seeing Wang Xiaohan look over, the youth smiled and greeted him. "Hey!" The youth had delicate features and a lively expression. It should have been a good scene, but Wang Xiaohan felt like a bucket of cold water had been poured over him. His heart was cold. His voice trembled. He only had time to let out a miserable cry. "It's Hien. Run!" His companions heard him and ran. Wang Xiaohan also wanted to turn around and run. But when he moved, he felt something fly towards his knees. Then, his legs went numb and he couldn't move anymore. He looked at his companions. They were all the same. Hien flew down from the tree. He was still holding the acorn in his hand. Just now, he had used the acorn to hit their acupuncture points. This was all because Wang Xiaohan and his companions were injured. Moreover, the mountain path was steep. They were already exhausted. That was why they were so easily restrained by Hien. Hien walked in front of Wang Xiaohan. Wang Xiaohan didn't wait for him to speak and shouted, "We don't have any flags. We don't even have one." Wang Ba and the others also came out from the shadows. They searched them and shook their heads at Hien. "We don't have any. Since you don't have any flags, why did you run when you saw me? Yin asked curiously. I was afraid that you would hit me, Wang Xiaohan said with difficulty. Who told you that we hit people? Yin was even more puzzled. He looked into his eyes. Brother, you seem to be seriously injured. Is the battle for the flags on the mountain so intense? They had avoided the intense battle from the beginning to the end. They didn't know what the situation was. Now that they saw Wang Xiaoan and his companions' miserable state, they were all glad that they didn't fight with the recruits. No one was willing to be beaten black. We heard that you stole a lot of flags. Wang Xiaoan stammered, and your methods are sinister and cruel. Wang Ba was not happy. Who the hell is talking nonsense? Do we need to be cruel to be here? Who is trying to ruin our reputation? Wang Xiaoan didn't dare to say that the outsiders were much worse than this. They directly said that Yin and his companions were a motley crew. You just came down from the mountain, right? Yin asked. Wang Xiaoan nodded. You didn't even have a single flag. Why did you come down the mountain? Wang Xiaohan smashed the pot. Since I couldn't get any, I might as well go back to take a bath and rest. Let me ask you. Yin looked at him with a smile. Other than us, who has the most flags on the mountain? It's Lei Ho. Lei Ho. Huang Xiong frowned. Have you heard of this name? Jiang Jiao shook his head. No. Shi Tu and Wang Ba also expressed that they hadn't heard of it. There were tens of thousands of recruits in the Liangzhou Guard. Outstanding people would always be talked about. Since this Lei Ho had stolen so many flags, he must be very outstanding. But before this, no one had heard of this name. Is he very strong? Yin asked Wang Xiaoan. Very strong. He has more than 10 flags. I want to get rid of all the flags in your hands. Wang Xiaoan said. More than 10 flags. Yin raised his eyebrows. It seemed that this Lei Ho wasn't just lucky. She asked, how did he steal the flags? Did he set a trap? No, Wang Xiaohan replied. He just saw someone with a flag and directly fought with them. After defeating them, he stole the flag. His companions are about the same as us, but this person is too strong. He can fight against several people alone. Yin was stunned. If that was the case, this person wasn't just strong. She asked, you were injured by him? Wang Xiaohan nodded in humiliation. Yin shook his head. Wang Xiaohan asked, what's wrong? He hit you. Why didn't you hit him? I can't beat him, Wang Xiaohan said angrily. If I had your skills, I would have fought with him long ago. That's not true. If you can't fight, use your brain. Yin patted his shoulder and unsealed their acupoints. You gave us so much information. I can't repay you. Don't worry. I will take revenge for you. Brothers, she turned and called out to Jiang Jiao and the others. Don't just stand there. Pack up and get to work. You really want to fight with him? Wang Xiaohan asked cautiously. After talking to Yin for a while, he felt that Yin wasn't as cruel as the rumors said. Wang Xiaohan was relieved and kindly advised, since you already have a flag, you should go down the mountain first. Lei Ho is really good at fighting. If you can't beat him, you won't have a flag. If you go down a mountain now, you can still get second place. Second place? Yin shook his head. Second place might not enter the vanguard. Don't worry, Yin said. Who cares what kind of monkey he is? In my territory, he can only obediently be a worm. She laughed arrogantly. For a moment, Wang Xiaohan was speechless. After Yin asked a few questions, Wang Xiaohan and the others went down the mountain. They were probably afraid that if Yin and Lei Ho fought, they would be implicated. They ran very fast and disappeared in a few moments. Jiang Jiao turned and looked at Yin. From what he said, that Lei Ho is very strong. Don't worry, Yin said. I'm even stronger. She was so confident that the others didn't know what to say. Yin estimated the time. Lei Ho and the others should be going down the mountain soon. He urged everyone to quickly hide and not waste any time. After hiding for about the time it took to drink a cup of tea, someone's footsteps were approaching. There were a total of 5 people. The other 4 were at the back, and 1 was at the front. The one at the front should be the leader of the 5. He was about 20 years old and was a young man. He was tall and thin, with a dignified appearance and bright eyes. He walked in front of the dense forest and suddenly stopped. He stopped his companions behind him and said, Wait, Big Brother Lei? his companions asked. In the dense forest ahead, there is a faint murderous aura. I'm afraid there is an ambush here. Ambush? His companions found it strange. Why would someone dare to ambush us? Their group, relying on Lei Ho alone, had snatched all the flags from the hands of the recruits on the mountain. Other people didn't even have to talk about an ambush. When they went down a mountain, they were very ostentatious and didn't hide at all. This was because no one could beat Lei Ho. We only have 14 flags in our hands, Lei Ho said. We don't know where to find the remaining 6. Aren't the remaining ones in Hiyan's hands? That's right. Lei Ho looked at the dense forest ahead. So the one who set up the ambush here is most likely Hiyan. The group looked at each other. After a while, someone asked, "Then what should we do?" No one in the Liang province guard didn't know Hiyan. He could be considered a 1 in 10,000 talent. Although Lei Ho was also very powerful, if the two of them fought, it was hard to say what the result would be. Good timing. Lei Ho suddenly smiled and said, "He's here. Let's snatch all his flags and not leave a single one for others." These words were full of confidence and made everyone's blood boil. His companions all said good. Lei Ho said again, "You guys go deal with the others. Leave Yin to me." He didn't know that, coincidentally, Yin also thought the same. Lei Ho took a few steps forward. The path was narrow and there were dense forests on both sides. He didn't go forward. He only shouted to the front. "This one is Lei Ho. Come out, Yin. I know you're here." A young man's light laughter suddenly sounded from the tree. Lei Ho raised his head and looked up. The young man was leaning against a tree branch with one hand supporting his head. He seemed to be taking a nap. Her gaze was regretful. She said, "Brother's eyesight is too good. I can't hide it." "You hit it well." Lei Ho also smiled. "It's just that your companions are too murderous." Ian thought helplessly. What could he do? One was a bandit. One was a hero of the forest. One was a young master of a martial arts school. And one was a hunter born and raised in Shuajing. All of them had been through bloody battles. How could they be as calm as a monk in a temple? "Tell your people to come out," Lei Ho said. "Let's fight for the flags fair and square." He emphasized the words fair and square. It was probably because he had heard about Hiyan's great achievements at the top of the mountain. He liked to fish in troubled waters, so he emphasized that they couldn't use schemes and tricks. They liked to play hide and seek. Hiyan only smiled and said, "Let your people find them." Lei Ho's smile turned cold. He looked at Hiyan for a moment. Suddenly, a cold light rushed towards Hiyan. Hiyan moved sideways to avoid it. The cold light brushed past his shoulder. He saw the cold light fly back to Lei Ho's hand. It was a long sword. This person originally used a sword. "Brother, you're too impatient," Hiyan smiled slightly. He raised his hand and pulled out the 9-section whip from his waist. The two whips collided in the air and made a crisp sound. The young man jumped down from the tree branch. "Then I'll fight with you." She rushed towards Lei Ho. Lei Ho greeted her. Behind him, Lei Ho's companions also wanted to help. But as soon as they moved, they saw several people coming out from all directions. From the grass, behind the sure-two, beside the tree trunk, and from the foxhole. They were probably Hiyan's companions. They appeared without warning and seized the opportunity. Lei Ho's people were caught off guard and could only suffer such a loss. They were all beaten up a few times. Since they came up the mountain, they had been invincible. Well, had they ever been beaten up? For a moment, they were more shocked than angry. Wang Ba waved his axe and rushed into the crowd. "I, your grandfather, have long wanted to come out and fight. Come, let's fight to our heart's content." Hiyan smiled and said, "Take it easy, Brother Wang. If it ends too quickly, there won't be any more fights. You're still in the mood to joke." Lei Ho felt that it was inconceivable. He was probably angry that Hiyan wasn't focused during the fight. He didn't hold back and stabbed his sword towards Hiyan's chest. Hiyan slightly frowned and looked at Lei Ho with a cold expression. The recruits came up the mountain to fight for the flag. The goal was to fight for the flag and not to fight. Therefore, the instructor would remind them not to harm their lives. But when she fought with Lei Ho just now, she knew that this person didn't have any scruples. No wonder Wang Xiaohan was beaten up so miserably and was disheartened so early. Wang Xiaohan wasn't the most miserable person who fought with Lei Ho on the mountain. For example, if it was someone else, they would have been stabbed. He really didn't hold back at all. Seeing Hye-Yan's expression change, Leiho's eyes flashed with contempt. He said, "If you admit defeat now, I won't fight." "How could that be?" The youth smiled and said, "I still want the remaining flags in your arms." Leiho's expression changed. All the flags were indeed in his arms. First, it was because he was the one who stole the flags. If he had them, his companions wouldn't have any objections. Second, if he had them, no one would dare to steal them. He didn't think that Hye-Yan would see through him. He sneered and quickly pointed his sword at Hye-Yan. Hye-Yan's front lapel was about to grab Hye-Yan's flag. Hye-Yan raised his hand, and the 9-section whip's tail hit Leiho's sword with a paw sound. Hye-Yan tiptoed and retreated a few steps. She lowered her head and looked at her clothes. Fortunately, they weren't cut open. Her heart flashed with a trace of displeasure. If this was in Shuo Jing, Leiho's actions would be enough for the girl to send him to jail. Molesting a good girl on the street was something a hooligan would do. Brother Lei is too rude. She raised her eyebrows and said, "I'm a bit angry." Chapter 83. I'm a little angry. As soon as he said this, Wang Ba and the others all looked at Hye-Yan at the same time. Tu had spent the most time with Hye-Yan, so he knew that Hye-Yan was a good-tempered person. Even when Wang Ba had tried to steal her meat bun, she had only defended her food. She had never seriously said that she was angry. But now, this monkey, who came out of nowhere, had actually made Hye-Yan angry. Leiho laughed. "Brother He, swords have no eyes. Don't take out your anger on me. You'll have to be able to hurt me first." Hye-Yan smiled. He flipped backward and was already behind Leiho. His 9-section whip was like a long snake, nimbly swinging. Leiho dodged, but the whip seemed to have eyes. He didn't shake it off. Instead, it brushed past his cheek. In a split second, a red mark appeared on Leiho's face. Because it was the tail of the whip, there was no blood. Even so, Leiho's expression was very ugly. "Brother Lei, swords have no eyes." Hye-Yan hooked his finger at him. "Don't take out your anger on me." Leiho didn't say a word. He held his long sword and rushed forward. His movements were skillful, and his murderous aura soared. He was completely different from the new recruits who practiced in the martial arts field. The tip of his sword was aimed at either Hye-Yan's throat or Hye-Yan's heart. It was very vicious. In contrast, the youth's movements were much gentler. He was originally thin and delicate, but he didn't seem tired at all. It was as if he had endless energy. He swept and entangled Leiho's sword, preventing it from moving forward an inch. He didn't want to hurt Leiho's life, but Leiho didn't think so. She thought about it several times in her mind. It seemed that unless she completely defeated Leiho, as long as Leiho had one breath left, he would not give up and chase after her to snatch the flag. However, after exchanging blows with Leiho, it gave birth to a strange feeling in Hye-Yan's heart. This strange feeling was indescribable, but made her feel as if something had been overlooked, causing her to feel uncomfortable all over. While he was thinking, a saber and sword gleam came from his side. Hye-Yan was startled and leaned back to dodge. His sleeve was cut open in a split second, and the wind leaked in. Leiho stared at her and said with bright eyes, "At this time, it seems like we shouldn't be distracted. I was just thinking about how to calm you down." Hye-Yan said, "Brother Lei, are you a little annoyed that no one has told you?" Such blatant provocation, coupled with her smiling expression, could really make an ordinary person explode in anger. Leiho's face immediately darkened, and he raised his sword to stab. Hye-Yan smiled slightly and threw out her long whip. The whip circled around her body like a long snake, and unexpectedly, the tip of the sword couldn't move an inch. She was still smiling. While smiling, she said, "Actually, you guys don't know, but I'm also quite good at using a whip." In an instant, the whip crisscrossed, sweeping forward and rolling, sometimes fast and sometimes slow, dazzling people's eyes. The young man's voice carried a cheerful tone, as if he wasn't at daggers drawn to fight for the flag, but was competing with his heart on the martial arts field. She spoke amidst the flying whip footwork. "This is called twisting the elbow. This is called deceiving the horse left and right. This is called the white snake's tongue. Sweeping dragon. Her movements became faster and faster. Wang Ba and the others had already stopped what they were doing and looked at her, as if they were shocked by her imposing manner. Originally on a martial arts field, they already felt that she was very powerful, but now it seemed that she had been holding back before. Lei Exant gritted his teeth, and his expression became more and more unsightly. He didn't put He Yin in his eyes. No matter how powerful a recruit was, he wouldn't be able to take care of everything. He Yin's saber, bow, and spear techniques were outstanding, but it didn't mean that he could defeat him. However, the young man in front of him used the whip so casually, as if he had already used it thousands of times. That was fine. Even if he used the same weapon well, it didn't mean that he could win in a fight. But He Yin was really too cunning. She had only exchanged a few blows with him, but she seemed to be able to observe his weak points and attack them specifically. In such a short time, he was unable to find He Yin's weak points and had no way to attack. Lei Ho felt apprehensive. The young man's smile became wider and wider. One whip after another, one whip after another. Lei Ho felt that the long whip in front of him was like a spinning wheel, but also like a hard and fierce steel rod. It was like a worm or a dragon, with endless changes. He couldn't help but feel a little dazzled. In this dazzling moment, he saw the long whip coming towards his face again. Lei Ho subconsciously used his sword to block it. In the next moment, the whip made a mischievous turn and went straight for his chest. Lei Ho knew that something was wrong, but it was too late. The whip seemed to have grown eyes, and it directly wrapped around the dozens of flags in his bosom and pulled them back. Lei Ho wanted to use his sword to block the long whip, but the long whip could be retracted and released at will. How could it be entangled by his sword? It slipped and fell into He Yin's hands. This is called the golden silk gourd. He Yin waved the flag in his hand and said with a smile, "Thank you, Brother Lei, for tying it up for me." Lei Ho was conceited. He felt that none of the recruits on White Moon Mountain today could defeat him. Therefore, he was extremely arrogant when he put the flags. He directly tied them up with a rope and put them into his bosom. But at this moment, He Yin took them all away. He couldn't help but feel a trace of regret. If he had been more careful and separated them, he wouldn't have lost everything so quickly. Now that he saw that He Yin took them all away, Lei Ho could no longer maintain his gloomy face. Without saying anything, he rushed towards He Yin. He Yin retreated a few steps and said with a smile, "Once it's in my hands, it's mine. No one can take what's mine. What if I insist on taking it?" Lei Ho's murderous aura sword, his sword like a meteor. "Actually, I don't like to fight," He Yin sighed. "If you insist on taking it, then I can only beat you." The two figures collided in a split second. Wang Ba and Lei Ho's companions were already tired from fighting. Moreover, the flags weren't in their hands, so there was no point in fighting. They were already sitting under the tree, watching from the sidelines. In their hearts, they were very clear that this was a contest between He Yin and Lei Ho. Whoever won would take the flags. "Can you tell who's stronger between the two of them?" Lei Ho's companions asked. Jiang Jiao shook his head. "I can't tell. Do you even need to ask?" "It's definitely He Yin," Wang Ba answered matter-of-factly. "Oh, brother, why do you say that?" "I don't know. It's just a feeling." "Do you want pine nuts?" Huang Xiong handed him a pine nut. Thank you. "Oh, it's delicious." Before he finished eating the pine nuts, he heard a dong sound. Everyone looked forward and saw that the two figures had separated. Lei Ho's expression didn't change. The youth smiled and held a long whip in his hand. A sword was lying on the ground. "You lost," He Yin said. Lei Ho's expression was ugly. He didn't speak. After a moment, he said in a low voice, "You cheated. All's fair in war." He Yin picked up the long sword on the ground and returned it to him. He said seriously, "Your leg was injured by me. Rest here for an hour before you move. Otherwise, your leg will be affected and you won't be able to practice martial arts in the future." Lei Ho turned his face away and took the sword. He didn't want to look at her. "It's okay." He Yin patted his shoulder and said earnestly, "Victory and defeat are unpredictable. It's a man's duty to endure humiliation. It's just a battle for the flags. You're already very outstanding. It's a pity that you met me." She pointed at herself. I'm the best. Wang Ba and the others had heard He Yin say this countless times. At first, they didn't care about it, but now they were numb to it. Moreover, she wasn't wrong. He Yin called Jiang Jiao, let's go, and said to Lei Ho's companions, you guys rest here and protect Brother Lei. That person looked at her in confusion. You guys beat up so many new recruits on the mountain. When the new recruits come down and see that Brother Lei can't move, it's inevitable that they'll join forces to beat you back. That's why she said righteously, don't think that evil is small. Lei Ho's group was left behind. Jiang Jiao and the others followed He Yin down the mountain. He said you cheated. Huang Xiong couldn't help but ask, how did you cheat? Actually, I wasn't trying to trick him. I was just purposely showing him a few flaws. He Yin shrugged. He wanted my life, and I just wanted him to be unable to leave, unable to catch up to me. He misunderstood my intentions, so that monkey isn't that strong. Wang Ba didn't comment. He said he was strong, but he lost so quickly. So weak. That's where you're wrong. He Yin shook his head and laughed. He really is strong. Among the new recruits of the Liangzhou Guard, if I wasn't there, he would be the number one. He Yin had fought with this person before. She didn't know what this person used to do, but he didn't look more than 20 years old. Thinking about it, he must have practiced martial arts for at least 10 years. His skills were profound, and his techniques were skillful. If there was a flaw, it would be that his killing intent was too strong. Even though he didn't take lives, with his fighting style, it was very likely that he would seriously injure his companions. It was because his skills were too good that his method of capturing the flag was so simple and crude. However, capturing the flag was never a matter of setting up an arena. Whoever could fight to the end would be the winner. Even though Lei Ho was very strong, he had been fighting with the other new recruits on the mountaintop, constantly going up and down the mountain. In the end, he still used up a lot of energy. When he fought, it was fine if it was only for a short time, but after a long time, his flaws became very obvious. He Yin went up and down the mountain today with the 5 of them. Wang Ba and the others also put in serious effort. Other than making arrangements, He Yin didn't really fight many times. Because she was full of energy, she also had enough energy to look for Lei Ho's weaknesses. He really won't follow? Jiang Jiao was still a bit doubtful, and frequently looked back. I think we should go faster in case he follows. Don't worry, He Yin said. Unless he doesn't want to continue practicing martial arts in the future, he won't follow. But what you said makes sense. We should leave the mountain as soon as possible. In the room of the city guard, a game of Go was still unfinished. Shen Han's mind was preoccupied, and he didn't have a mood to play Go. The youth in front of him didn't seem to be anxious at all, nor did he care about the outcome of the battle for the flag. He leisurely drank tea and played Go, so calm that it made one's hair stand on end. The black-clothed imperial bodyguard came in from outside, walked to Xiao Ju's side, and quietly said, He Yin bumped into Lei Ho and fought with Lei Ho. Lei Ho wasn't a match for him, and now all 20 flags are in He Yin's hands. He didn't avoid Shen Han, so these words were also heard by Shen Han, who immediately sucked in a breath of cold air. That Lei Ho, from the moment he went up the mountain to fight for the first flag, he had been noticed by them. This young man didn't reveal himself before, and if it weren't for this battle for the flag, they wouldn't have known that there was such a capable fighter in the Liang Province Guard. This person was even recommended by Instructor Du's relatives. At first, they didn't see anything special about him, but now they knew that he had real skills. This person went up the mountain to fight for the flag, and fought with others without losing a single battle. He was different from He Yin, who hid in the dark and ambushed people. He only knew how to be straightforward and didn't know how to hide. Fortunately, his skills were excellent, and he defeated countless people, taking 14 flags in one go, twice as many as He Yin. Originally, Shen Han was very much looking forward to the meeting between Lei Ho and He Yin. He really wanted to see who would win if the two really fought. Shen Han thought that He Yin was used to playing tricks and that he might not be able to defeat Lei Ho if he directly fought like this. After all, Lei Ho's skills were indeed powerful. He didn't expect that Lei Ho would still be defeated by He Yin. He Yan's group is already walking down the mountain. Fei Nu continued. They can enter the formation in another hour. Shen Han looked at Xiao Ju. At first, he thought that there was no need to use a formation against a recruit. But now, Shen Han only had one thought in his mind. This young man was omnipotent, and there was nothing he couldn't do. He was afraid that this formation wouldn't be able to trap him. Xiao Ju's face was calm. She lowered her eyes and picked up Shen Han's white chess piece. Shen Han asked in a low voice, "Governor, will he win?" Xiao Ju's lips curled up. Maybe. The sun was gradually setting in the west. The sunlight changed from the brilliant gold of the day to a warm red. It seeped through the gaps between the branches and leaves, like a large piece of red clouds, soft and bright, like the red muslin worn by a girl. Wild birds chirped from the depths of the forest. It was probably because they already had 20 flags in hand, and victory was in their grasp. The group was in a very good mood. It was as if they didn't come to the mountain to compete for flags, but came out to play. At this moment, they were preparing to go home. Wang Ba said, "When we go back this time, other than the possibility of entering the vanguard, will we be rewarded with something?" "There should be." He Yan casually asked, "What do you want?" "Wine. Of course it's good wine. I haven't drunk much since I came here. I'm dying of thirst." Wang Ba complained. "If I could have wine to drink, I would have more strength than I do now. That's wine, not medicinal cuisine." He Yan found a little funny. "Can you give me some good weapons?" Zhang Jiao said, "When I joined the army, I didn't bring any weapons with me. The long spear in the training field isn't very convenient to use. If I could be rewarded with a good long spear, that would be good." Huang Xiong touched the prayer beads on his neck and said, "I just want to eat hot beef. Drinking big bowls of wine and eating big chunks of meat, that's the way to live." Shirtu pondered for a long time before saying, "Bring Xiao Mai up the mountain. He has always wanted to hunt rabbits." Out of the 4 people, 3 of their wishes were related to eating and drinking. He Yan didn't know whether he should praise them for having no desires. Jiang Jiao asked, "What about you? What do you want as a reward?" "Me? I don't want anything." He Yan said, "If I can enter the Vanguard Battalion, I'll be very happy." "You're really thinking about making a name for yourself," Wang Ba said sourly. "Of course. I'm so powerful. Wouldn't it be a pity if I didn't make a name for myself? I'm also hoping to be recognized by the governor and become his bodyguard or something." He Yan thought that if that was the case, he could meet Xiao Ju every day and find out news about the He clan. Just think about it. Wang Ba rolled his eyes. "If you succeed, I'll call you Dad." He Yan, as they were talking, Huang Xiong stopped and said, "Have we been going around in circles? Why do I feel like we've been here before?" "Forget it." Wang Ba said, "Do you know the way?" "I also feel like we've been here before," Jiang Jiao said. He Yan didn't say anything. Shirtu took out a straw rope from his pocket and walked to a tree in front of them. He reached out and tied it to a tree, saying, "The mountain path is complicated and the trees look similar. It's normal to make a mistake. Let's continue walking." The group continued walking. After walking for a while, they saw a tree in front of them. The straw rope that Shirtu had tied to the tree was tied to it. This time, everyone was silent. After a while, Wang Ba opened his mouth. His voice trembled slightly. He said, "Are we going around in circles?" The more he spoke, the more excited he became. He rambled on. "I heard from one of the advisors on our mountain that he started walking on a mountain path the night before. When he reached a certain place, no matter how he walked, he kept walking in circles. He had no choice but to sit down and sleep in his clothes. The next morning, well, guess what happened? He deliberately kept them in suspense, but no one answered him." Wang Ba said angrily. When he woke up, he found himself in a graveyard. He Yan facepalmed. "Brother Wang, now is not the time to tell ghost stories. What are you afraid of?" Huang Xiong said in a low, muffled voice. "I have the Buddhist prayer beads. Demons and ghosts can't get close to me. But you..." He turned to look at He Yan. "Did you remember the way wrong?" "No," He Yan said. "Then why did you suddenly get lost?" Jiang Jiao was also puzzled. Although Mount Baiwei was big, it wasn't to the extent of getting lost. They were fine when they came up, so how could they not find their way down a mountain? We are indeed going down the mountain, Hien said, but we are also going around in circles here. A thought flashed through her mind, and she walked to the tree with the straw rope tied to it. She looked around for a bit. This was a wild area. The trees were not as dense as the ones at the top of the mountain. The ground was overgrown with weeds, and there were a few pieces of sure, too, scattered everywhere. Sure, too? Hien's heart skipped a beat. She walked a few steps forward and saw a pile of rocks. She bent down to take a closer look. A few huge rocks were randomly piled together without any shape. They looked like they were casually moved here by the hunters when they were resting on the mountain. Why are you staring at this pile of sure, too? Wang Ba asked. Are there words on it? Hien straightened up and said, There are no words on it, but this is why we can't get out. What? Jiang Jiao and the others also gathered around. They were all looking at the sure, too, but they couldn't figure out what it was. Sure, too frowned and asked, What is the meaning of this? Chimen Duanjia, the 8 gates of life, injury, rest, obstruction, view, death, shock, and opening. Someone set up a formation here, Hien said. We entered the formation, so we are going around in circles. Everyone could understand her words separately, but they didn't understand when she put them together. Everyone looked at her. They didn't even know where to start asking questions. Hien was also puzzled. There was no sign of Wang Xiaohan anywhere. This meant that Wang Xiaohan and the others had already gone down the mountain. They couldn't have broken the formation. This meant that there wasn't one before. Then why was there one now? Who set up the formation specifically for her? Shenhan or Xiaoju? Chapter 84. After a while, Wang Ba couldn't help but ask, What is this formation you're talking about? It's a military formation. A general needs to learn how to use troops to set up a formation. The military formation was originally modified by the Chimen Duanjia. Hien said, It's a long story, but this formation, what's wrong? Sure, too asked. It's not a military formation. It's just a normal 8 trigrams formation. Hien answered. She really didn't understand why there was a formation here. There wasn't this formation when they went up the mountain. Wang Xiaohan and the others didn't see it either. It seemed like it was prepared for them, or for her. But why? Then can you walk out of here? Jiang Jiao stared at her face and asked. Of course. This time, Huang Xiong was also surprised. You even know how to do this? Hien smiled. I only know a little. Her only know a little usually meant very well. Everyone was speechless. Hien knew that there must be guards hiding in the dark to observe their situation on the mountain. At this moment, her words and actions were probably being watched by the eyes in the dark. She couldn't reveal that she wasn't good enough. Maybe Xiao Ju specially set up this formation for her to test her ability? After all, she had never seen a flag battle where she had to break a formation. It seemed like it wasn't easy to enter the 9 Flags Battalion. If everyone in the 9 Flags Battalion knew how to break a formation, then the 9 Flags Battalion really wasn't simple. Xiao Ju had such a strong cavalry. No wonder she was invincible. With that thought, she said, Follow me. Follow the way I walk. Don't take a wrong step. Hien was rarely this serious. Jiang Jiao and the others didn't dare to be careless. They followed Hien's footsteps and slowly walked down the mountain. Huang Xiong asked as they walked, Brother He, who did you learn this from? Hien smiled and said, My master is a master. I thought so too. Huang Xiong nodded. Your master must be a peerless master. Otherwise, how can you know everything? Hien lowered her head and smiled. She didn't answer. In fact, General Fei Hong was brave on the battlefield. It wasn't rare. The world didn't lack of heroes who weren't afraid of death. Although she was skilled, she wasn't the best in the world. She didn't need to mention fighting a group of heroes by herself. General Fei Hong was best at arranging troops and formations. Her master was indeed a peerless expert, but as a woman, she was born inferior to a man in terms of physical strength and physique. One must know how to play to one's strengths and avoid one's weaknesses. If one could learn how to arrange troops, deploy troops, and dispatch generals, it would be much more effective than if she went to the battlefield alone to fight. Her master was most proficient in the art of divination, so she learned it and combined it with the art of war. Finally, she became a famous general of her generation, Fei Hong. Generals should learn how to train troops and set up formations, but why did the Nine Flags Battalion have to learn this as well? Hien couldn't figure out. She couldn't find a clue. She could only give up and walk down the mountain. Actually, she could directly break the formation here and destroy it. However, Hien wasn't sure if the formation was prepared for her. If it was prepared for someone else, and she destroyed it, what would happen to the people who came after her? Therefore, she led Jiang Jiao and the others out through the life gate. Breaking the formation was as easy as flipping her hand for her. She was familiar with it. However, in the eyes of the secret watchers, it was a big deal. Ma Damei and Liang Ping were hiding in the dark. When they saw Hien and the others leave, they opened their mouths and looked at each other. They saw the surprise in each other's eyes. He left just like that. Liang Ping stuttered. As if nothing happened. Ma Damei said. Hien didn't even stop to think. He didn't think about how to break the formation. He just glanced at it and knew how to get out. They actually had such a person among the new recruits. Until now, there didn't seem to be anything that could stop him. This should have been a good thing. He was a heroic young man who was outstanding. Anyone who had such a hero under their command would feel that they were lucky for several lifetimes. However, the current situation was complicated. She didn't know if it was a blessing or a curse based on Chief Instructor Shin's words. The forest was dense. Half of the sun had already set. Hien and the others walked out of the formation. She stopped and looked back. The formation made of sure-too and dry branches was so blurry that she couldn't see it clearly. Are we walking out? Wang Ba asked. That's right. Wang Ba was happy. Damn it. There's nothing to stop us this time, right? I estimate that we'll be down the mountain in less than an hour. Jiang Jiao was also happy. It's almost over. He saw that Hien was still looking behind them. He asked, is there anything wrong? Nothing. Hien shook her head. She still felt that the formation was inexplicable. When she fought with Lei Ho, there were also some strange places. These discomforts were like small stones falling into her boots. It made her panic. It made it difficult for her to feel happy. She only felt that she had overlooked something and was somewhat uneasy. It's getting dark. Let's go down the mountain early, Huang Xiong said. Hien collected her thoughts and only said, let's go. The sun didn't pass by Yu Mountain and fell into the Wulu River. Half of its body sank into the river. The water surface was bathed in the setting sun. It was as if a woman's makeup box was opened and pearls were scattered all over the surface. The pot of tea in the room was already cold. It was evening. The wind was soft and the curtains were green. The autumn scenery was far away. Two people were playing chess. One of them was anxious and the other was calm. Someone walked in from outside and said the first team is down the mountain. Shenhan looked at Fei Nu and waited for Fei Nu to say the name. It's Hien. With these three words, Shenhan's body leaned back slightly. His entire body relaxed. This result was both unexpected and reasonable. He had long guessed that this would be the result, but he had some doubts. Now that his suspicions were confirmed, he was momentarily at a loss. The black piece was placed. The youth in front of him raised his head and said indifferently, "You've lost." Shenhan, Governor's chess skills are superb. I'm ashamed of my inferiority. In this half-day, he hadn't won once. He didn't know why Xiao Ju was in the mood to play chess like this. Governor, they've gone down the mountain. Should we reward them now? No need. Xiao Ju curled her lips. Du Mao will do as he sees fit. 5 days from now is the Mid-Autumn Festival. We'll reward them on that night. Regarding the Vanguard Battalion, should we let Hien enter? Shenhan asked hesitantly. Hien had already won first place. Naturally, he should enter the Vanguard Battalion. But his identity was suspicious. Right now, they didn't know if he was a friend or foe. Wasn't it a bit inappropriate to hastily agree? No. The youth stood up and looked at the osmanthus trees outside the window. The osmanthus trees had bloomed, and their fragrance assailed their nostrils. Together with him, he looked like a gentleman. He said, "Let Lei Ho enter the Vanguard Battalion." After the battle, they came down from a mountain and arrived at the city guard station in less than an hour. There were a few torches outside the martial arts practice field. Everything was as peaceful as before. There was no instructor guarding the door. There was no scene of celebration as they had imagined. They looked at each other in dismay. I thought there would be a celebratory feast. Wang Ba was a bit dissatisfied. Why isn't there anything? Just as they were speaking, someone in the martial arts practice field saw them and walked over. It was only when they got closer that they saw that this person was Du Mao. Du Mao wasn't as excited as when he saw them off. His expression was very calm. When he saw them, he asked, "Where are the flags?" Ian took out a bunch of flags from her bosom. Her bosom was bulging from the flags. She suddenly handed them over to someone and felt much more relaxed. Du Mao counted 20 flags. That's right. Jiang Jiao was still a bit excited. He couldn't help but ask, "We should be first, right?" "We are first." Du Mao nodded and put away the flags. He said to them, "Go take a bath and rest first. Tomorrow morning, you can rest for 2 more hours before coming to the martial arts practice field. You worked hard today." He still didn't have any intention of rewarding them. Wang Ba asked, "That's it?" Du Mao looked at him. "What else do you want?" Wang Ba didn't know how to respond. He felt wrong for some reason. Du Mao said, "I'll go back first to report to the head instructor. Don't stay here. You're all sweaty. Wash up and eat something." Then, he didn't care about them and turned to leave. He was really heartless. Looking at Du Mao's back, they felt the night wind become a bit colder. Wang Ba saw that Du Mao had walked far away. Only then did he dare to point at his back and ask, "No, what's the meaning of this? He's just going to leave us here? He has to give us an explanation. So all our hard work for the whole day was for nothing." Huang Xiong and Jiang Jiao were also somewhat disappointed. Shi Tu said, "Maybe it's not today. After all, there are still recruits who haven't left the mountain." That's right. He also thought so. We don't know when the last recruit will leave the mountain. Moreover, the head instructor needs to discuss the prize for a while. It's not something he can think of immediately. Wang Ba glanced at her and said sourly, "Of course you don't care. Your prize, entering the Vanguard Battalion, is definitely in the bag. Of course you can say that. When I enter the Vanguard Battalion, I'll go get you 2 jars of good wine." He patted his shoulder and said seriously. Wang Ba shook off her hand and snorted twice. "I don't care what you say. Grandpa, I'm going back." They didn't live in the same house, so they went their separate ways at the martial arts practice field. When He Yin and Shi Tu returned to the house, the originally quiet house suddenly became lively. Xiao Mai was the first to rush up and threw herself in front of Shi Tu. "Brother, how was it? How many flags did you get? What rank did you get?" Shi Tu revealed a rare smile and said, "All of them." The house was stunned for a moment and then suddenly cheered. Ian was almost lifted up and thrown into the sky. Hong Shan shouted exaggeratedly, "All of them? You guys are too hardworking. Ahi, you're good. You got first place again. I think it won't be long before you don't live in this house anymore. I heard that the soldiers in the Vanguard Battalion eat and sleep better than us. Sai, I'm so jealous." "Sure too, brother He. Tell us quickly. How did you guys get the flags?" "That's right. There were so many recruits on the mountain. Did you guys fight? Did you have a good time fighting? You all got 20 flags. How could you not fight? You guys didn't seem to be injured. Are the others so weak?" Yin could only say, "Brothers, let us eat something and drink some water first. I'll tell you slowly. Don't be impatient." As they spoke, it was already late into the night. Outside, they heard the recruits coming down the mountain one after another. Not a single one was missing. Yin felt relieved. When it was late at night and there was no one around, he sneaked to the riverside to take a bath. The long summer was finally over. The river gradually became cold. Yin couldn't help but shiver when he didn't get into the water. She was a little worried. It was still okay in summer and autumn, but in winter, she couldn't go to the bathroom with the recruits to take a cold shower. She didn't know how cold the river would be. The cold was secondary. What excuse could she use to explain why she didn't use hot water and instead took a cold shower in the river? Other people would think that she was crazy. Therefore, she had to enter the 9 Flags Battalion as soon as possible. Xiao Ju didn't lack money, and he was also a young master. He wouldn't mistreat his confidant. It would be more convenient than now. Hian's body gradually adapted to the cold. She splashed some water on her body and used Xiao Mai to wipe her spleen. All the new soldiers had already left the mountain, and there was no news of anyone falling down. This also meant that the array on the mountain path should have been removed after He Yin and the others left. The formation was indeed prepared for her. He Yin thought that Xiao Ju really wanted her to enter the Nine Flags Battalion and deliberately tested her qualifications. Since that was the case, Xiao Ju should be satisfied with her after she passed the test. She would definitely enter the Nine Flags Battalion. In the future, she still needed to perform more. This way, the more satisfied Xiao Ju was with her, the more likely she would become his confidant. It would be best if she could become his right-hand woman. He had always felt that something was wrong when she fought with Lei Ho today. She thought about it, but couldn't figure out what was wrong. Even now, she still felt the same. She could only shake her head and think of a reason to fight with this person again in a few days. Maybe she could figure out the crux of the problem. However, this person didn't show any mercy. She still had to be careful. He rinsed the foam off her body and wiped her body with a cloth. Then, she put on her clothes and walked back to her room. Ever since she bumped into Xiao Ju at the Wulu River, Hien had to walk very far away every time she took a bath. She didn't want to bump into him again, no matter how she thought about it. She had been very cautious as a new recruit. The next day, all the recruits who went up the mountain the day before rested in their tents for 2 hours. Chung Lisu came to find Hien. Young Master Chung brought 2 round pomegranates for Hien. He sat cross-legged on her couch and said, "I only found out last night that you guys want to fight for the flags. My uncle locked me in my room for the whole day. I copied books for the whole day. If I knew, I would have come to see you guys." He leaned closer to Hien and said, "I heard that Big Brother got 20 flags. This time, you're the #1 recruit in Liangzhou." Hien smiled and opened the pomegranates that Chung Lisu brought. The pomegranates were big and round. The insides are already ripe. When he opened them, each one looked like red crystals. Just looking at them made one's mouth water. Hien picked up a few and ate them. He answered, "I was just lucky. Big Brother, you are good at everything. You are just too humble." Chung Lisu said seriously, "How can this be called lucky? You are very good." "Since I am so good," Hien wanted to get some information from him. He looked at him and asked with a smile, "Do you think I can enter the Nine Flags Battalion?" "Of course." Chung Lisu swallowed the word "of course." Originally, this was something that went with the flow and couldn't be more normal. However, Chung Lisu still remembered that not long ago, when Xiao Ju got the information from his mouth, his attitude towards Hien didn't seem to be one of admiration. "I think that, Big Brother, you have already proven to everyone that you are the #1 in the Liangzhou Guards. There is no doubt about it." Chung Lisu carefully chose his words. Any ordinary person would choose you to enter the Nine Flags Battalion. His words were very clear. Any ordinary person. However, Xiao Ju was not an ordinary person. Therefore, no one could say for sure what the result would be. He did not detect the trap in Chung Lisu's words. He was probably too confident in himself. After all, in this battle for the flags, she had already gotten all the flags. This was enough to show how good she was. Moreover, in the battle for the flags, Hien thought about it carefully and felt that his performance was very outstanding. He knew how to use people, how to set up traps, and how to use tricks. He did not lose when he fought against Lei Ho. Even Xiao Ju's final formation was easily broken. Hien felt that even in Xiao Ju's Nine Flags Battalion, he could be ranked 1st or 2nd. How could Xiao Ju let go of such a good talent? She was very happy, so she did not notice that the happier she appeared, the more guilty Chung Lisu appeared. "However, do you know when the reward will be given?" Hien asked. "It wasn't yesterday. If it isn't today, then it should be in the next few days. You and your uncle are inseparable, so you should know a thing or two." Chung Lisu sighed in relief. He could answer this question. She said, "Isn't it almost mid-autumn? On the night of the 15th of the 8th month, the rewards will be given in the barracks." Hien was slightly startled. "Mid-autumn? Yes." Chung Lisu sighed. "Time really flies. I feel like I haven't been in Liangzhou for long, and it's already mid-autumn." Hien looked at her. This usually energetic young man had a rare look of worry on his face. Hien asked, "Do you want to go home?" The worry on his face quickly faded. It was so faint that it made one wonder if it had even been there. Chung Lisu flung her sleeves and said angrily, "How is that possible? Is it because Liangzhou's scenery is bad? Or is it because my uncle is ugly? Why would I want to go home? I'm simply too happy here. I don't want to go back and get married." Ian, at this age, children usually yearn for more freedom. Chung Lisu turned to him and asked, "Big brother, what about you? Do you want to go back?" The young man lowered his eyes. The shadow of his body made it difficult to see his expression clearly. Her voice was also smiling, but there was a hint of disappointment in it. She said, "It's okay. I don't really miss home." The next few days were as usual. The discussion about the battle for the flag was only lively in private among the recruits. Everyone was talking about what kind of reward the first-place winner would receive. The instructors were very calm. They were very tight-lipped and did not reveal anything. The more they thought about it, the more excited they became. The autumn moon became more perfect day by day. In the blink of an eye, for days had passed, and mid-autumn arrived. Chapter 85. The autumn geese flew diagonally across the sky, and the osmanthus trees gave off a sweet fragrance. The heat of summer had finally faded away, leaving behind only the coldness of late autumn. Early in the morning, when Hien woke up, Xiaomai handed her a pear. "I picked it from the forest beside the training field. I've already washed it. Try it." Hien had just washed up, so she took a bite. It was so sour that her teeth almost fell out. Seeing her squint her eyes, Xiaomai scratched her head in embarrassment. "The ones in the wild forest aren't very ripe yet. It should be sweeter after a while. But since it's autumn now, there are a lot of wild fruits in the forest. We can secretly pick a few every day after training. Marinate these sour pears with sugar and make them into rock sugar snow pears. They're very delicious." This child only thought about eating every day. Hien said, "There's no sugar here." Xiaomai was stunned for a moment. Then she seemed to realize something. She said with some disappointment, "That's true. Not necessarily." Hong Shan, who had been watching them talk from the side, interjected, "Aren't we going to talk about merits today? You and sure too got first place in the competition for the flag last time. Who knows? There might be candy in your reward today. Maybe there's something delicious, like rock sugar snow pears." When this was mentioned, Xiaomai suddenly became excited. She said, "That's right, Ehigo. We're going to talk about merits tonight. Have you thought about what you want?" "I can't get whatever I want." Hien smiled. "The garrison isn't the capital, so there's a shortage of resources. Sai, he just wants to enter the vanguard battalion." Hongshan also took a bite of the pear and said vaguely, "This request will definitely be fulfilled." Hien smiled. These past few days, although she appeared very calm, in the end, she was still somewhat excited. Once she entered the Nine Flags Battalion, it meant that she was one step closer to Xiaoju. She would also be able to openly deal with the He clan's matter. Thinking about it, she would be able to fulfill her wish tonight. Up until now, her path in the army had been quite smooth. After all, being a General Feihong was something that people would fight over no matter where she went. Ian felt a little proud. During the day, he went to the martial arts practice field as usual. However, at night, everyone was admiring the moon in the open space near the foot of the mountain outside the martial arts field. Liangzhou was not like the capital. Naturally, it would not be like the wealthy families of the past. They would either hold banquets in their own courtyards, restaurants, or pleasure boats. They would invite their colleagues and friends and fill the table with delicacies. Admiring the moon in Liangzhou was nothing more than lighting a bonfire. The recruits would sit in a circle and eat something rare. Perhaps it would be rice wine. His companions bragged, gossiped, drank wine, ate meat, and looked at the moon. That was all. In the afternoon, Hien went back to his room and changed into a clean set of clothes. The new recruits of the Liang Province Guard had uniforms for spring, summer, autumn, and winter. They could wear spring and autumn clothes, and there were two in total, one red and one black. The style was simple and resistant to dirt. Hien changed into a red one and went to look for Chung Lisu. Chung Lisu had already come to the martial arts arena in the morning and told Hien to look for him in his room in the evening. Hien guessed that Chung Lisu wanted to give him something to eat. As expected, when he saw Chung Lisu, the young man handed her a mahogany basket. The basket was exquisitely made, and there was an image of Chong, he flying to the moon carved on top. When he opened it, he saw neatly arranged moon pastries. The fragrance assailed his nostrils. They were beautifully made and seemed to be delicious. "Hidage, this is for you," Chung Lisu said in a small voice. "The moon pastries distributed by the Liang Province Guard are too rough. I'll give you the one someone gave me." Hien said, "Thank you." In reality, she was not particularly interested in pastries. However, if she gave this basket of moon pastries to Xiao Mai, the child would probably jump for joy. "You've never eaten this before, have you?" A trace of sympathy flashed through Chung Lisu's eyes. She was also a bit proud. "This is not the best. The pastries from Shuo Capital's Zuiyu restaurant are the best in the world. In the future, when we return to the capital together, I'll treat you to a meal at Zuiyu restaurant. I'll tell you a secret," Chung Lisu said, as if she was presenting a treasure. "My uncle also likes the food at Zuiyu restaurant." Hien thought that Chung Lisu was the same as Hien Sheng. She worshipped and admired Xiao Ju unconditionally. She thought that if she received Xiao Ju's approval, then she would not be bad. However, to be honest, Xiao Ju was indeed not bad. After he thanked Chung Lisu for her gift, the sky gradually darkened. Hien carried the basket of pastries out the door. At this moment, a bonfire had already been lit in the wilderness at the foot of the mountain. The bonfire was bright. Many new recruits had already arrived and were sitting on the ground near the bonfire. It was said that every new recruit would receive meat pies and oranges. There were also wooden sticks set up near the bonfire. Rabbits and fish were strung on them. It was obvious that they had been hunted on Baiwen Mountain. It seemed that there would be meat to eat today. Hien was in an extremely good mood. He even swung the basket one after the other. The aroma of roasted game lingered nearby, making people feel hungry. She also saw that there was a large wine jar near each bonfire. The wine was probably not good wine. The smell was a bit pungent. However, at this time, only strong wine would be comfortable. She came a bit late. She first went to find Xiao Mai and the others. When she passed by the other new recruits, they all looked at her with a strange expression. They were probably guessing what good thing she would get today. Hien happily walked forward. When he reached a place near the foot of the mountain, he saw Xiao Mai and the others. Xiao Mai and the others were surrounding a bonfire. Hien waved at him from afar and called out, "Xiao Mai." When the young man heard her voice, he turned his head and looked over. However, he did not respond to her as enthusiastically as usual. He seemed to be a little hesitant. Hien walked closer to take a look. Other than Hong Shan and Shitu, Jiang Jiao, Wang Ba, and Huang Xiong were also there. The three of them gathered together. Hien put down the basket in his hand and sat down cross-legged. He opened the basket lid and said with a smile, "Look what I brought for you. You don't have to thank me." She picked up an exquisite moon ball and handed it to Xiao Mai. This child was used to being greedy. She said, "Here." Xiao Mai was stunned for a moment. She slowly reached out and took it. She opened her mouth and wanted to say something, but did not say it. Hien said to the others, "If you want to eat, take it yourself." No one responded to her. Hien raised his head. Everyone was staring at him. The way they looked at him was a little strange. Even the carefree Hong Shan was strangely silent. Hien asked suspiciously, "What's wrong? Why do you all look like you've seen a ghost? Did something happen?" Hong Shan turned his head. Jiang Jiao's eyes flashed with a trace of sympathy. He said, "Hien, don't be sad." "Why would I be sad?" Hien was confused. The atmosphere was suffocating. Hien looked at Huang Xiong. Huang Xiong looked away and rubbed the prayer beads in front of his chest. He looked like he had nothing to do with the affairs of the world. However, Wang Ba could not help but say, "Well, even if you didn't enter the vanguard, don't be too sad. Where there's a will, there's a way." Hien breathed a sigh of relief and said, "I was wondering what happened. How could I not enter the vanguard? Her words suddenly stopped. She looked at everyone. Everyone's faces were unbearable. She moved her lips and heard her own voice. It was as if it was floating in the air. You really didn't enter? When you weren't here, Chief Instructor Shun went over there. Leiho entered the vanguard. You weren't mentioned. Xiao Mai carefully chose her words. Did they miss out? Heian still had a trace of luck in his heart. Maybe it's because I didn't come just now. I asked Chief Instructor for you. Sure, Tu said softly. In this battle for the flag, none of us entered the vanguard. Among the others, apart from the others, that Leiho luckily entered. Heian became silent. Everyone stared at him nervously. Heian wanted to enter the vanguard. This matter was obvious to everyone. When he first came to Liangzhou, he could barely run while carrying weights. At that time, this youth forcefully endured it for the sake of entering the vanguard. His skills were so outstanding, and he even obtained first place in the battle for the flag. Not only did he not understand, but even in the eyes of the people around him, they also felt that it was incomprehensible. It's okay, don't be angry. Hong Shan comforted her. Isn't it just the vanguard? We don't care. Let's go to another camp. Infantry camp, cavalry camp. As long as you have the ability, why worry about not being appreciated? He is such a fine horse. He needs to be appreciated by Bo Le. If they don't want you, it's because they don't have the foresight. That's right. Jiang Jiao also felt sorry for her. Heian was far more worthy of being an opponent than Leiho. You're so strong. You're like a raging fire that can see true gold. In the future, people will know. Everyone was talking at once to comfort her. But when they saw the youth, who had always been bright and cheerful, for the first time, lowering his head and not saying a word, his entire body filled with dispiritedness and dejection, they gradually quieted down. Hong Shan poked Xiao Mai's arm, indicating for Xiao Mai to say a few words. Xiao Mai was racking her brain to think of something to say when Heian suddenly stood up. Without saying a word, he was about to walk out. Hey, where are you going? Huang Xiong grabbed him. The youth hatefully said, I'm going to find Xiao Ju and ask him why he chose Leiho and not me. What part of me can't compare to Leiho? My name isn't even in the vanguard. Hong Shan was shocked. He didn't think that Heian would angrily call out the governor's name. He hurriedly stopped Heian's movements. You can't be so impulsive. If you go find military governor Xiao now, it will only make him unhappy. In the future, it will be even more impossible for you to go to the vanguard. Yes. Xiao Mai clumsily tried to persuade him. Higu, military governor Xiao might be deliberately keeping you around so that you can do something else, such as go to another battalion. You're so powerful. There's no reason for him not to choose you. I'm powerful. Heian was so angry that his face turned green. Let Xiao Ju stand in front of me, and we fight. I don't think he'll be able to beat me. Jiang Jiao hurriedly covered Heian's mouth. For him to say such words, it could be seen that he was really angry. Everyone was afraid that he would find trouble with Xiao Ju in a fit of anger, so they hurriedly pulled him back to his seat. Huang Xiong said, Young man, don't be so impatient. As long as you're alive, you won't have to worry about firewood. Right now, he's the military governor and you're a new recruit. How can you speak to him as an equal? Wait until you become an official and a general in the future. Then you can look at him again. Then we'll have to wait 8 to 10 years. Wang Ba muttered. Who knows if he'll become a general? Jiang Jiao also said this military governor Xiao is really something. We're clearly first, and Leiho was defeated by Heian. Why would he abandon Heian and choose Leiho? I heard, Wang Ba thought for a moment, that Leiho seems to have some relationship with one of the instructors here. They might be relatives. Maybe he got in through the back door. I think these nobles have power and influence, so they don't care about the lower class. Xiao Mai couldn't help but say, Military Governor Xiao isn't that kind of person. There must be some misunderstanding. Wang Ba rolled his eyes at him. Whose side are you on? Xiao Mai didn't say anything. Everyone. Heian suppressed his anger and said, I have a terrible headache. Can you give me some peace and quiet for a while? Everyone immediately fell silent. The bonfire danced in front of them. The night sky was dyed red by the flames. Heian couldn't understand why Xiao Ju would choose Leiho to enter the vanguard battalion. She admitted that she had been blind for some time, But compared to Xiao Ju's blindness, she was still far from it. Could it be that she didn't perform well in the Liang Province Guard? She couldn't have performed better. Didn't she fight for many flags? She didn't leave any face for others. She even broke through a formation that a normal recruit found difficult to break. How could Xiao Ju not be moved by such a talent? She wanted to take back her words about Xiao Ju not being bad. He had only felt his liver hurt from anger. He didn't think that this wasn't the end. After a while, Chief Instructor Shun walked over. Under everyone's gaze, he ordered people to carry a small box over. He said to everyone, "You're all here. It's good that we won first place in this flag battle. Tonight is also the Mid-Autumn Festival. This is your prize." Xiaomai went over and opened the box. She saw a small jar of wine and a few ingots of silver inside. "This is 18 immortals. Such a small jar is worth 100 taels," Chief Instructor Shun said with satisfaction. "You can drink tonight. Don't be greedy." 18 immortals. Wang Ba smacked his lips. "I didn't think that I would be able to drink 18 immortals here. My life was worth it." In an instant, he forgot who was the one who had just cursed powerful nobles. Huang Xiong also swallowed. They were all heroes and loved wine. Moreover, it was precious wine. Even someone as young as Xiao Mai, who didn't like wine, grabbed an ingot of silver and took a bite. This prize wasn't big, but it definitely wasn't small. Among the joy, Hien appeared particularly unique. She only glanced at the box and suddenly laughed. "It seems that our commander-in-chief doesn't have a good life." Shen Han was stunned. "He's so poor." The young man didn't even look at him. He took a branch and fiddled with the firewood in the fire. He lowered his head and muttered to himself. Everyone could hear the sarcasm in his words. Hong Shan covered her mouth and smiled apologetically to Shen Han. "This brother is drunk. He's drunk. He's talking nonsense. Chief Instructor, please don't lower yourself to the same level as a child." Shen Han inexplicably left. After Shen Han left, Hien looked at the box on the ground and couldn't help but sneer. "This little thing. Are you trying to dismiss a beggar?" "Brother, this little thing is good enough." Huang Xiong patiently said, "You're taking your anger out on him." Hien was suppressing her anger and didn't want to speak. Huang Xiong sat down beside her and held her shoulder. Looking at the dancing flames in front of him, he said in a low voice, "Young person, don't be disheartened. It's just that you've encountered a hurdle. Look at me." He pointed to himself. "You've only lost a chance to enter the vanguard. Back then, I had nothing." He couldn't bear to touch the jar of 18 immortals. He only took the jar of yellow wine and poured 2 large bowls. He gave one to Hien and took the other for himself. He tasted a mouthful, saying, "Such strong wine." Seeing that Hien didn't speak, he pointed to the prayer beads around his neck, saying, "This is my mother's." The prayer beads were dark and flashed with a warm light. It was extremely incompatible with his valiant physique, but she had never seen Huang Xiong take it out before. He then pointed to the blade beside him. "This blade has killed 19 people." These words were somewhat frightening. For a moment, even Wang Ba and the others looked at him. The light in Hien's eyes moved slightly, looking at her. Seeing that she finally reacted, Huang Xiong said in a low, muffled voice, "Back then, I was as old as you. Our family had a blade manual that was passed down from our ancestors. After someone found out, they came to buy it. My father refused to sell it. At that time, my companions and I went outside to cool off. After we came back, our entire family was silenced. All of our belongings were still in the house, but the blade manual was missing." Xiao Mai cried out in alarm. "This is for the blade manual. Someone exterminated my entire Huang family." When Huang Xiong said this, his expression was very calm. She didn't know if it was because too much time had passed or if it was because of something else. He said, "I reported it to the government, but the local officials couldn't do anything about it. Therefore, I personally investigated it. I used up all of my family's wealth and carried a blade for 1,000 li alone, searching for traces of the culprits. After a full 3 years, I finally found where they were. I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to take revenge and would instead lose my life. I wasn't afraid of death, but I didn't want to die in vain. I was the only one left in the Huang family. If I died, no one would seek justice for them. Therefore, I pretended to be a coolie and entered that family's house. During the day, I observed the terrain and their daily habits. At night, I practiced my blade skills. A year and a half later, I found an opportunity and took revenge for my Huang family in one night. This story was thrilling, but he told it in a casual manner. The danger in it could be imagined. However, the bald man's eyes were only calm. He looked at Yin and said, 10 years is not too late for a gentleman to take revenge. If I risked my life to seek justice from them at that time, in the end, it would only be a life and death struggle. But now you see, the enemy is dead, and I'm still alive. I can even drink wine and eat meat with you here. Tell me who won. He wanted to use his own matter to tell Yin not to act on impulse. Yin smiled and was about to speak when he saw Jiang Jiao reach out and pour himself a bowl of yellow wine. He raised his head and took a big gulp. He was not as good at drinking as Huang Xiong. His face was red from the spiciness of the wine. He reached out to wipe the wine stain on his lips and blurted out, "That's right. Who doesn't feel sad at times? What are you doing? Look at me, the young master of the martial arts school. That sounds good. I also have a fiancée." Xiaomai widened her eyes and was about to ask, but Tu nudged her and made her quiet down. "Do you know how she died?" Jiang Jiao's eyes were a little red. He said in a muffled voice, "She died for love. She liked someone else and refused to marry me. She died for love with that scholar. Tell me, do you think I'm worse off than you?" No wonder Jiang Jiao, with his good looks and skills, joined the army. After this incident, he was disheartened and left his hometown. What the eye doesn't see, the heart doesn't grieve over. Everyone looked at Wang Ba. Wang Ba was puzzled and then said angrily, "Why are you all looking at me? I don't have a story. Are you all crazy? Why are you talking about this nonsense? Are you all here to see who is worse off?" Chapter 86. The moon was white, and the mountains were clear and spacious. The bonfire reflected the aroma of wine, and the atmosphere was elegant. The recruits lowered their heads to drink and eat meat, and raised their heads to chat and admire the moon. This became a unique scene for the Liang province guards. Sparks floated out along with the autumn wind, making people wonder if they would burn their clothes. In just a moment, they were reduced to ashes, accompanied by the soft whimpers of people. Xiaomai sobbed. "I've forgotten what my parents look like. I'm even worse," Wang Ba said expressionlessly. "I've never seen my parents since I was born." Yin. She raised her hand and drank a big mouthful of wine, trying to calm herself down. Originally, they were trying to comfort her, so they compared their own unhappy experiences. In the end, it became a comparison of who was more miserable. This was great. The recruits beside them were all laughing and chatting happily, but they were the only ones who were gloomy. Looking at Xiao Mai and Wang Ba, who were hugging each other and crying, and then looking at young Master Jiang, who was drinking alone with red eyes, Yin was speechless. Well, she didn't know who was comforting who. Huang Xiong glanced at her and said, "Brother He, your alcohol tolerance is not bad." Yin was stunned and looked down at herself. Unknowingly, she had already drunk 3 bowls. She didn't know how much the original lady he could drink, but she thought that the weak lady he wouldn't drink such pungent and strong alcohol with a chipped bowl. However, to the previous General Fei Hong, this was very familiar. When it was cold, when she was afraid, when she was upset, when she was hungry, if she had alcohol at hand, she could temporarily resist the difficult times. Alcohol could drive away the cold, strengthen one's courage, satisfy one's hunger, and drown one's sorrows. When she was in Shua Jing, she didn't touch a single drop of alcohol, afraid that she would be exposed. When she was in the Fuyue Army and in Mo County, she gradually became used to drinking. She had also trained her alcohol tolerance. None of the young generals and new recruits in the tent could drink as much as her. Sometimes, when celebrating a great victory, she was the only one who could drink until the end. This might be the legendary Duga Chiobai. What surprised her the most was Tu. She had thought that Tu, who had grown up in the mountains and looked strong, could hold his liquor well. Unexpectedly, he fell asleep before he even finished half a bowl of wine. Was he drunk just like that? His remaining half bowl of wine was taken away by his younger brother, Xiao Mai. He drank with Wang Ba and said, "I didn't expect everyone to be in the same boat. In this case, we will be a family in the future." After saying that, he drank it all in one gulp. His nose was stung red by the spicy wine. Then, in less than the time it took for an incense stick to burn, he followed his elder brother and fell on his back, drunk. Ian said, "You really are biological brothers." Wang Ba felt like he had lost a drinking buddy in such a short time. So he went to put his arm around Jiang Jiao's shoulder and handed Jiang Jiao a skewer of roasted rabbit meat, saying, "Don't just drink to drown your sorrows. Come, eat some meat. Your fiancé didn't choose you because you two weren't fated to be together." This was the first time he said something like a human. In life, meeting and parting are all fated. There's no need to force it. Jiang Jiao took the rabbit meat from him and continued to drink silently. Seeing this, Huang Xiong smiled. He looked at the moon in the sky and said to himself, "I miss my family." Ian took out a moon ball from the basket of desserts that Cheng Lisu gave her. The moon ball was small and shaped like a water chestnut flower. On top of it was written the words "Good Flowers, Full Moon" in red. She took a bite and tasted the sweetness of sesame and peach kernels. "If they were still alive, I wouldn't be here. I would be in the village," Huang Xiong said. "My mother's cooking is very delicious. I want to eat her cooking." Ian lowered her head and ate the biscuits silently. Huang Xiong asked, "What about you?" He turned his head and looked at Hien. "How do you spend your days at this time in the past?" The Mid-Autumn Festival in the past? Hien was a bit absent-minded. Before she joined the army, she spent the Mid-Autumn Festival with other people in the He family. But because of her special identity, people stared at her wherever she went, so she didn't have much freedom. She actually liked the hustle and bustle of the moon sacrifice ceremony, but because she was wearing a mask, it was inconvenient. She was an awkward existence in the He family. In terms of identity, she was the legitimate daughter of the first wife. But on the other hand, she didn't belong to the main branch or the second branch. When she joined the army in the Mo County for 3 years, she lived every day in fear. She didn't know when she would die on the battlefield. She didn't even want to think about the reunion during the Mid-Autumn Festival. Later, she returned to the capital and married into the Su family. Around this time last year, she was already blind. Her heart was full of hope for that person, but before she could achieve it, she fell into darkness. At that time, she thought that she couldn't get over it and that her life would be like this. On the 15th day of the 8th lunar month, she asked Su Zhiheng to take her up the mountain to worship Buddha. She hoped that Bodhisattva would bless her and let her see the light again. Su Zhiheng agreed. In fact, that day, she didn't really want to ask Bodhisattva to bless her. The tip of her tongue hurt. She accidentally bit her tongue. The sweet taste was instantly covered by the stinging pain. Ian came back to his senses and avoided Huang Xiong's gaze. He said as if nothing had happened, "Just live like this. It's about the same as it is now. When I see you, it's like seeing myself in the past." Huang Xiong took a sip of wine and said, "You're just like me in the past." Yin smiled and said, "Brother, my family is living well. In fact, they were living a better life than most people. But you're not satisfied." She heard Huang Xiong's voice and turned her head to look. The bald man's face showed the wisdom and vicissitudes of a middle-aged man who had experienced the hardships of life. He touched his prayer beads and said, "You haven't taken your revenge. You're not satisfied, so you're always distressed and trapped yourself." Hian's heart moved, but he didn't say anything. "I don't know what kind of hatred you have." He looked at the moon. "Sometimes your eyes are the same as mine." Hian was a little confused. Did she have it? She always thought that she hid it well. "One day, it will be better." The bald man lowered his head and patted her shoulder. "You have to believe in this." Hian didn't say anything. He silently picked up his bowl and drank. Huang Xiong didn't say anything. He ate meat and drank wine by himself. Wang Bao was also a little drunk. He sat there holding his head and smiled foolishly. Jiang Jiao buried his head between his knees. It wasn't clear if he was crying or sleeping. The instructors also gathered together and ate meat and drank wine around the bonfire. They finally saw the results of the hard training in the past few days on this batch of recruits. They were all a lot more relaxed. Chung Li-su also mingled with them. He was a young master from the capital and had never tasted this kind of novel way of playing. Even the roasted rabbit leg, sprinkled with coarse salt, was delicious. He originally wanted to talk to Yin when he had the time, but after drinking a mouthful of wine, he felt his legs go weak. He couldn't walk and sat back down. The instructors laughed kindly. Someone said, "Young Master Chung, you still need to practice your alcohol tolerance. With this little alcohol tolerance, you can't be a soldier of the Liang Province Guard." "I'm not a soldier of the Liang Province Guard," Chung Li-su muttered. "I just came here to have fun." This child could always say that he couldn't do it. If he was a grandson of the instructors, he would have been picked up and beaten 10 times. But this person was Xiao Ju's nephew, so everyone said, "Young Master Chung is so open-minded. It's not good to drink too much. My wife doesn't allow me to drink. Let's all learn from young Master Chung." But young Master Chung, Liang Ping asked him, "Is the governor really not coming to have fun with us?" "Uncle doesn't like noisy places," Chung Li-su replied. "He definitely won't come." Everyone felt that it was a pity. Some people felt that Xiao Ju was too unreasonable. After all, it was the Mid-Autumn Festival. A general who didn't even have fun with his subordinates during the Mid-Autumn Festival was too arrogant. But there were also some people who didn't mind. Ma Damii chuckled. "Why don't we send some food and wine to the governor? It's hard to be alone during the festival." "There's no need," Chung Li-su said. "My uncle won't drink this kind of low-quality rice wine." Everyone, well, that was the second son of a Xiao family in Shuajing. He definitely wouldn't force himself to drink. Du Mao asked curiously, "Young Master Chung, do you know how the governor's alcohol tolerance is? I heard that General Fei Hong won't get drunk even after 1,000 cups. I don't know if the governor is better or worse than General Fei Hong." When the instructors heard this, they immediately looked at Chung Li-su with bright eyes. Whenever there was a discussion about who was better, General Fei Hong or General Feng Yin, it was always fresh. From swordsmanship to alcohol tolerance, from height to temperament, people wanted to compare them one by one. Unfortunately, the two of them had never appeared together except when they were outside the window. They had never personally competed. Moreover, General Fei Hong always wore a mask. Who was better was still a mystery. "Of course it's my uncle," Chung Li-su answered without hesitation. "I've never seen my uncle drunk in my entire life." In reality, Chung Li-su had never seen Xiao Ju drink before. But he couldn't say this in front of the instructors. No matter how good General Fei Hong was, he couldn't be better than his uncle. Go, go, go. Don't talk about people behind their backs." Shen Han waved his hand. "Drink, drink. Why are you nagging like an old woman? Young Master Chung, come, let me toast you." "Young Master Chung?" Young Master Cheng's cheeks were red. He was already drunk. It was night. The green curtain covered the bright moon. There were only a few figures on the bed. The sound of autumn was quiet. Someone was playing the guqin. On the moon, the magnolia had bones, and the person in the ice was like jade. A long sword hung on the wall like frost and snow. A young man in a robe had a handsome appearance. His expression was calm. When his hands touched the strings of the guqin, the music was moving and intoxicating. He was playing Flowing Light. The sound of the guqin was distant, like pearls falling on a plate. It was the night of the Mid-Autumn Festival. It was supposed to be a time of reunion. Even though the instructors of the Liangzhou Guards were thousands of miles away with their families, they were still gathered together, singing and drinking. It was not as quiet as him. He didn't seem to feel anything. He just focused on plucking the strings. His tied-up black hair hung over his shoulders. Under the moonlight, it was covered with a layer of coldness. From spring to autumn, from summer to winter, it seemed like it was just the blink of an eye. The moonlight was even colder because of his guqin. The night sky was as clear as water. The sound of the guqin seemed to float endlessly in the vast sky. It made people want to cry. Suddenly, something smashed into the courtyard. It made a crisp sound, and interrupted the cold sound of the guqin. Xiao Ju paused and raised his head. Through the window, he saw that something had been thrown in from outside the courtyard. He paused for a moment, stood up, and pushed the door open. At this time, a third thing came in and landed beside him. He bent down to pick it up and found that it was a stone. Slave Fei appeared from behind and said in a low voice, "Young master." Outside, Xiao Ju opened the courtyard door. A young man in red stood outside. He held a small jar of wine in his hand. The cork had been removed, and the fragrance was strong. It was the 18 immortals. He was generous. It was such a small jar of wine. Ordinary people would hide it for a long time before they were willing to take a sip. Looking at him, he must have drunk a lot. This person was He Yin. Xiao Ju looked at him indifferently. He Yin widened his eyes as if he just saw him clearly. He said, "Xiao Ju." Fei knew who was behind him couldn't help but look at He Yin. He actually dared to call the young master by his name. He was really bold. "What are you doing here?" Xiao Ju asked him. "I thought about it again and again." The young man had drunk a lot of wine. His whole body reeked of alcohol, but his expression was normal. He didn't look drunk at all. It was hard to tell if he was drunk or not. He said, "You chose Lei Ho to go to the vanguard. I'm not convinced." "So Xiao Ju." His mouth curved. "Let's fight." Before he finished speaking, he pounced toward Xiao Ju. Fei knew who was behind him saw this and was about to step forward. But he heard Xiao Ju say, "Don't move." He didn't dare to move. The young man flew forward and raised his fist toward Xiao Ju. Xiao Ju dodged to the side and frowned at him. He didn't have a weapon. He came empty-handed. If he was an assassin, he would be too stupid. But his words were clear and his eyes were clear. He didn't look like someone who was drunk and had gone crazy. Xiao Ju simply looked at him calmly, waiting to see what this person wanted to do. He Yan's attack didn't work. He turned around and attacked again. The young man's movements were nimble. He really wanted to fight, but his method was clumsy and crude. At first glance, it looked like a fight between students in a school. They only knew how to use their fists and feet to greet each other, but didn't care how accurate they were. Xiao Ju dodged to the side again. After 2 consecutive failed sneak attacks, He Yin doubtfully muttered to himself, "When did my skills become so bad?" Fei knew who was waiting at the side. Did this young man think that he could beat second young master Xiao? He had long heard that this He Yin of the Liang province guard was arrogant and conceited. Now that he saw it, it was true. Young master really had a good temper. He didn't throw this arrogant brat out of the door. She was defeated time and time again, but she didn't feel discouraged at all. She immediately came at Xiao Ju again, but this time, Xiao Ju dodged her again. Xiao Ju was just about to speak when she suddenly saw a black object pouncing at her from behind. She frowned, and without thinking, she drew her autumn drinking sword and slashed horizontally. Crash! The thing broke into pieces. He retreated a few steps, but it didn't touch him. He Yin, who came with the black object, couldn't dodge in time and was drenched from head to toe. The moon was full and the wind was fresh. The osmanthus had just bloomed, and the fragrance of wine filled the air. The ground was littered with the fragments of the 18 immortals. Each piece was fresh and fragrant. The young man frowned and looked over. She seemed to have been awakened by the fragments of the wine jars on the ground. She looked at Xiao Ju and took a step forward. She looked like a young lady whose hairpin was stepped on in the flower market and said, "If it's broken, you'll pay for it." Fei Nu looked at her and felt that this young man was really drunk. Otherwise, he wouldn't be speaking so confidently and incoherently. She whispered to Xiao Ju, "Young master, do you want me to take him away?" Xiao Ju raised her hand to stop her and shook her head lightly. The master and servant had been together for many years. They could tell what the other was thinking with just one look. Fei Nu immediately understood why Xiao Ju didn't throw He Yin out immediately. It wasn't because she had a good temper, but because she wanted to test He Yin. This young man's identity was suspicious. He was suspicious from head to toe. If she could get some information out of him while he was drunk, it would save her a lot of effort. If he pretended to be drunk tonight and did something else, then it would be even more unforgivable. Fei Nu hid in the tree and didn't say anything else. Xiao Ju turned and walked into the house. As she walked, she said, "Why should I pay for it?" Hearing this, the young man rushed into Xiao Ju's house. She ran so fast that she even staggered a bit. She rushed in front of Xiao Ju and blocked Xiao Ju's path. She said, "Do you know who I am?" Xiao Ju laughed, her eyes cold. "Who are you?" Hien slapped his thigh. "A real man never changes his name. I am Hien, Liang Province's #1 guard." Liang Province's #1 guard? Xiao Ju looked at her with a smile that wasn't a smile. "Who told you that? Do I need someone to tell me?" She didn't know if the young man was drunk or not, but his tone was amazing. "I know what I'm doing." Xiao Ju walked around him and put down her sword. She picked up the teapot on the table and poured herself a cup of tea. She had only taken one step when a young man stuck to her like a tail. He stood in front of her and asked, "Tell me, am I short? Did this person like to compare height with others when he was drunk?" Xiao Ju glanced at his hair that just reached her chest and nodded. "Yes, Hien, I'm not short." "Xiao Ju," Hien asked her again, "am I stupid?" Xiao Ju stopped pouring tea and stared at him. She said slowly, "Stupid. Hien, I'm not stupid." Xiao Ju suddenly regretted that she didn't throw Hien out of the courtyard immediately. Instead, she came here to ask for trouble. Other than listening to his nonsense, she didn't seem to get any useful information. Either Hien was too stupid, or this person was so astute that not a single drop of water could leak out. "What else do you want to say about yourself? Let's talk about it together." He lowered his eyes and said indifferently, "Hien, I'm tall and mighty, fierce and invincible, handsome and righteous. I'm such a righteous person. Why? Why doesn't anyone like me? Do you know how hard I work every day?" "Xiao Ju, because of you, I'm very unhappy tonight. Let me ask you." She took a step forward and put as much distance between her and Xiao Ju as possible. She looked up at him and asked eagerly, "Do you like me?" Xiao Ju took a step back and put some distance between them. He brushed his sleeve that was out of shape because of her tugging. It was as if he had seen the plague. He replied calmly, "I'm not gay. I'm not gay either." Hien muttered and suddenly raised his head. His expression was sad and angry. He asked loudly, "Then why do you prefer Lei Ho over me? That person is only a little taller than me. How can he compare to me? Whether it's appearance, martial arts, or our past relationship, Xiao Ju, you're too much. You have no taste. I'm very disappointed." At this moment, Shen Han, who had just walked out of the room and was about to deliver some roasted rabbit meat to Xiao Ju, covered his mouth in surprise. Just now, he seemed to have heard an incredible secret. Inside the room, a young man wearing a white undershirt looked at the person in front of him, speechlessly. The young man looked up at him. His eyes were bright, and there was no trace of fear or hesitation in his voice. He was so calm that it made people wonder what he was thinking. What did he mean by past relationship? It was just that he had given him some medicine from the Mandarin duck pot. How could it be a past relationship? This person was too friendly. But it's nothing. The young man suddenly raised the corner of his mouth. He smiled slyly and said in a low voice, "You chose Lei Ho to enter the vanguard. Every day, I'll find Lei Ho to spar with. 10 times, I'll lose 10 times. Everyone in the Liang province guards will know that Xiao Ju is blind." "What will you do when the time comes?" Xiao Ju, after saying this, Hien let out a drunken belch. His body tilted, and he fell onto Xiao Ju's soft couch. When he fell, half of his body fell onto the evening fragrant zither. The strings of the zither let out an ear-piercing sound. With a clang, the zither fell to the ground. Xiao Ju stood in the middle of the room. His eyebrows were faintly twitching. He felt that today's idea of fishing for information while drunk was really terrible. Glancing at the door, he saw a figure hesitating. He said coldly, "If you don't come in, what are you doing outside?" Shen Han was startled. He trembled as he walked over. Just now, he had heard the secret at the door. When he entered the courtyard, he was seen by Fei Nu. He really didn't know whether to advance or retreat. At this moment, the commander-in-chief was in a bad mood. You shouldn't make fun of him. This subordinate brought some freshly roasted rabbit meat from outside. I thought that the commander-in-chief might not have eaten dinner, so I specially brought it over. Shenhan placed a roasted meat wrapped in oil paper on the table. Commander-in-Chief, please enjoy. This subordinate will leave first. Wait, Xiaoju said unhappily. Such a big living person. Can't you see him? He indicated for Shenhan to look at He Yin. When Shenhan saw him, his heart jumped. Just now, he had heard that He Yin had a close relationship with Xiaoju. Looking at him now, this young man was so generous as to sleep on second young master Zhao's soft couch. That was second young master Zhao's soft couch. Among the Liang province guards, he was probably the only one who had the guts to do so. The relationship between the two of them was indeed not ordinary. Xiaoju walked in front of the soft couch. She lifted He Yin up by the collar and threw him in front of Shenhan. He's your man. Take him away. I don't dare, Shenhan said. Xiaoju, what? Shenhan hurriedly said. This subordinate means that the recruits of the Liang province guards are all under the commander-in-chief. How can you say that he's my man? He's the commander-in-chief's man. Xiaoju was so angry that she laughed. Shenhan, you talk a lot today. This subordinate understands. Shenhan shivered. This subordinate will take him away now. Just as he turned and walked halfway, Shenhan seemed to have thought of something. He asked, where does the commander-in-chief think this subordinate should send this young man? Xiaoju looked at him calmly. Do you want me to send him to your house? No, there's no need. Shenhan's scalp went numb. He said, Yin, to send him back to his original room. After Shenhan left, Fei Nu walked into the room. Xiaoju had already picked up the evening fragrance zither from the floor. Thanks to He Yan's pressure, one of the strings on the zither had broken.